The Mango After Hours podcast is only for general information, personal use, and entertainment purposes. We do not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any statements made by guests. The views expressed by guests are their own and may not reflect those of the producers, sponsors, or the host. Nothing shared should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. Always consult qualified professionals before making decisions based on this content. Mention of specific brands or products does not imply endorsement. All trademarks are property of their respective owners. Now, sit the fuck down and enjoy the show.
Little clappers, so we do this all the time. And action. All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? And today is the 20th episode of the Mango After Hours show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Why is it after hours? Because we wait for the store to hit 5:30. We close the doors, and then we have our guest coming in. Before we introduce our guest, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Think LED, best, bar none, LEDs, horticultural light in the industry. Trollmaster Agro, the future of intelligent farming. Best controllers, most well-known controller in the industry. When you see Trollmasters, like looking at Coca-Cola, anywhere on the planet, you can recognize it. Mango Tech store, beautiful backdrop. Gotta thank the store. And last but not least, mango juice. If you're not juicing, you're losing. Losing quality, losing yield. That's what we do. And I'd like to introduce the brothers, the only brothers, the brothers from another mother, the Beard Bros. And if you don't know about the Beard Bros, you must be under a rock, because they're the duo that has made a splash here in California. Just like a lot of people come into this state, and you got to figure it out. So we got Bill and we got Jeff Levers. Levers. Shit, I fucked that up. We just talked about it 5 minutes ago, and I named them like the soap. I'm fired. I'm fired. Levers. Okay, so let's get that straight. Jeff and Bill Levers are here with us today, and we're going to get to find out, how the Beard Bros came about, where they started, what happened along the way, and see what future ventures are coming out. And, I've had history with these guys for a while, and we're going to get into it. We're friendly, and then for some time going, when I got with True Leaf, Bill was bad at me for a little bit, so we'll discuss it. We'll touch base on that for a little bit, and we'll see how that's going. I think we're cool now, so we'll see. We ain't fighting, so we're okay. They're here, so we kissed and made up. What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
We did. We're good. We appreciate you having us on.
No, it's fucking great. It's great. I'd like to see some Florida people come into the California,
a fellow Floridian. There's a lot of Florida guys here, actually.
Yes.
I talk to a lot of people say, I grew up in Florida. I'm from Florida. They came out here.
Well, you know what? A lot, as you know, Florida's non-friendly, Republican, super hard on drugs. It's still actually only medical.
Yeah.
It's not recreational. Recreational got shut down last time again. It's a tough state. They persecute us for years. They're hard on us. So a lot of us that that grew and had, that was our life. What I'm saying, and we got into bigger grows. We felt persecuted. There was a time, I think 2000-ish, 2010. They were hot on grows. It's like they even ignored cocaine. If they got somebody with a kilo, it's like, hey, where's the grows? Where's the grows?
Yeah.
And then I was kind of involved in some of those raids back then. I was blessed that I was able to go out the back door. Didn't get caught up, but they were hot on our crews. I'm a contractor by trade, and I built a lot of spaces for a lot of people that I knew. What I'm saying? That's how I kind of somewhat got into the industry. And there was a time that it was hot, and then I was blessed that I didn't really sit on a grow. But I built a lot of grows, and I had the first rights refusal to any grow that I would put together. I would get it. I would build it at cost, but I had all the rights to
Right.
the work. But it got to the point that I got so hot that I had to make a decision. Do I stay here? Do I stay here? Legalization kind of was coming. I wasn't blessed to be able to have a landscaping company for 30 plus years, which we'll discuss a little bit about later. We're working up to there.
Get a Florida license.
Stay with us, yeah. And we had to figure it out. What are we going to do? This is what we like to do. We enjoy growing weed, and we exited the state. We exited the state. So tell us, were you guys born and raised in I know you guys were North Florida.
Yeah. We were not actually born and raised in Florida, but however, I did graduate high school, and so did Jeff. So we were still there when we weren't adults yet. So we do call Florida home, but we actually grew up in Pennsylvania. It's interesting you bring up 2010. That's the time we left Florida. Mm-hmm. My first run-in with the law and raid in Florida was back in 1990 in Jacksonville. So it's been a long time. I got raided a long time ago.
Yes.
And it wasn't a big raid. We had to grow 4 lights in a spare bedroom, but it still put somebody in jail. I wasn't there at the time, so I didn't go to jail. But that was at the beginnings of my cultivation experience. Was 1990 and 91. Is when we got started in Florida. But you're right, Florida's always been hot. They'd give you 5 years for having a spare bedroom with some weed in it.
Correct. Anything like 25 plants or more was a 3-year minimum mandatory federal time. It's not, we weren't blessed to have the California things like 1996 where, you have these cards and all this kind of stuff in this book and kind of, it was a get out of jail free card. It was tough. It was really tough. So 1990, you had a 4 lighter, you said?
We had a 4 lighter. We were building hydroponic systems. We went down to University of Florida and looked at their tomato houses, and we went to Epcot Center and looked at their hydroponics, and we built our own NFT system from that. My friend Johnny and his dad Jack. Jack was one who got me actually into plants before we started cultivating in a commercial level, taking care of interior plants in like malls and nice hotels in Florida. So I've always been around plants. I've always loved it. But when I found cannabis is different than every other plant. So when I found that, it really piqued my interest.
And for those of you guys that don't know, Epcot in Florida has got the Epcot ball has got this little area that does hydroponics, and anybody that grows weed, I think, is going to Epcot because every time that you go through there and you look at it, it's like, you think, hydroponics, how am I going to grow weed? And you kind of get bits and pieces from it. Yep. So you say it got the place you had got raided or something?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did.
You want to tell us anything about it? Was it your friends or was his?
It was my friend, and we were young, and we were very proud of what we were doing because we were growing what we thought was some good pot, and so we probably told too many people. And then somebody got in trouble. Okay. You know how it goes. Loose lips sink ships.
I gotcha.
And when you're 18 or 19, you're bragging about the weed you're growing. You're not trying to hide it. Obviously, after that, we hit it.
I gotcha. So you guys are a duo. You guys were growing together at that time?
We were not.
Definitely not. I'm 6 years younger, so
okay.
I was only 13 at that time. That was the year I tried smoking weed for the first time from him. Probably some of the weed from that grow, honestly.
It was. It was.
All right.
So no, us getting involved in cannabis as a business didn't happen until I was in college time, and I had him growing still, and that's where I was getting it. We joked that we were vertically operated all the way back then. He was the grower, I was the distributor, doing sales at University of Florida. So.
Okay, yep, you went to college. You
were vertically integrated back then.
Yeah, I like that. That's freaking funny. Older brother grows the weed, younger brother's freaking the salesman. I like it.
And of course, when you're growing, you're obviously probably flipping packs too.
Correct.
Because, your grow's coming down every couple months. You need something in between for your people.
Yeah,
so
you make that money.
Always, Florida always had that connection. You had options to Crippy, Kind Bud, Crippy, your brickweed. You had all different things. So,
well, that's basically what it was. We had brickweed that we would get. The mid grade is what we called mids back then as a good thing because it wasn't Reggie, it wasn't Regs.
Correct.
But I'd go down to South Florida and pick up the Crippy and come back up from there with that. So those were your 3 price points that you had for people.
So Crippy is a term that's over the years. It's synonymous to me. When I say Crippy, a lot of people say Crippy this, Crippy that, and then this is their Crippy, and it is to them because when I grew up, I grew up in South Florida, Broward County, North Broward County, South Palm Beach. We had this weed that was crypto, and I've told this story several times before. And crypto got known, you know what I'm saying? And it was shipped out of the newspaper that it was wrapped on was Seattle. We had rectangles, 500-gram blocks, half a key, and food saver bags back then. And then the surfer that they were all looked up to this, these drug dealers, we were young, and then they were selling packs. We'd go to a strip club and whatever, Corvettes. It was like, fuck, when I grew up, I want to be like that dude. He's got all the chicks. We started growing weed and selling weed because, we wanted the fast life, not because we wanted to save the world or anybody in my family had cancer or anything like that. No, we did it for us. It was the fast life, Florida, South Florida style. But Crippy is synonymous with seedless, and people say, hey, this is creepy. It's like, who knows what Crippy really is because it was synonymous to seedless, good weed, and the Cubans are the ones that called everything Crippy. So what was your Crippy, if you don't mind?
And that's what I was going to say. I remember specifically there being a strain that people referred to as Crippy at the beginning that had a particular profile that was a very orangish citrus profile to it, but a very sweet profile. But then it became more of a generic term for what I would term back then the $50 an eighth. Anything that you were paying $50 an eighth for and getting your 3.5 grams.
Everything came Crippy.
That was Crippy, basically. Just like OG became kind of the moniker for all of the weed that had that similar taste profile, effect profile, all of that, because it wasn't named strains back then.
Correct. No, it was either
It was all on look and it was all on smell, and if you could tell that something was the same from batch to batch as you were getting it, you knew it had consistency.
Yeah, for me in the 90s, Crippy was again seedless, good, uncompressed, but it was also synonymous with Kind Bud, which was what you would get on the Rainbow Tour or the Grateful Dead shows. They would call seedless good pot that wasn't flat. They would call that Kind Bud as well. So for me, when I say Crippy or Kind Bud, I'm just talking about something that may or may not have been homegrown, but it wasn't flat, and it actually was seedless and tasted good.
And for those of you guys that understand, when these guys are talking about flat weed, back in the day, weed was smuggled, and it got smuggled into, the more, the tighter you compact it, the more you would get. So a lot of the weed was compressed, whether it was on a press or whatever it is. So all the buds weren't freaking beautiful and fluffy like they are now, with nooks and crannies, as I say. That shit was fucking pressed.
Oh, it was a
flat.
brick. It was an absolute brick. You used to be able to fit an ounce in the corner of a sandwich bag.
Yeah.
It was a 1.5 by 1 inch square that was about a quarter of an inch thick, and that was an ounce.
So then that was the Reggie, most of it, and then what Jeff was talking about, the mids, which mids back then were actually fucking good.
It was
fucking
fire
weed.
homegrown.
It was fire weed.
Yep.
That usually was, eventually the Mexicans learned how to, you know what? If we throw seeds out there, some are going to be male, some are going to be female. They're going to cross pollinate, and then we're going to have seeded weed, which is not the best. Is Reggie. It's also the Jamaicans. We used to get a lot of stuff from Jamaica across, but eventually
South America too would bring in
South
bricks.
America, yeah. Some a little bit some Colombian gold and Panama
Red.
Panama Red,
Yep.
exactly, some of that stuff. But eventually, I got to say, I think it was the Mexicans that realized, you know what, if we get clones somehow, and they put it out there, and then they started growing this fluffier kind of, they realized that, compressing it too much kind of would deteriorate the product in a way, or you make it not as nice.
Right.
And then they were shipping, and they might have even started growing in Arizona too, in the mountains too, or somewhere in the Midwest, because we used to get, the semis in South Florida from. There were nice mids. I mean, they were fucking,
We had good old boys that would go up to Kentucky and Tennessee and bring it back.
800, 1,000 in bulk, and then you used to sell them for $1,600. I'm saying you double your money.
Yeah.
Semi-full back in the day. So mids were good. Believe it or not, mids were good.
Mids was a good thing in the 90s.
Mids was a good thing, yeah.
It wasn't expensive and it wasn't flat.
It was the Reggie, it was the mids. Make a lot of money with the mids, and then there was the seedless, was the Crippy, the Crypto, anything like that went around.
The kids these days don't even know about having to pick through seeds.
No.
Dude,
in your
kids nowadays
flower.
are fucking spoiled. Like another
good.
thing that they're spoiled about is everybody's an expert nowadays because they have Instagram. Instagram is a great source, not only to learn about the weed, but also look at grows. How did you guys learn? Like you said, you went to Epcot.
Yeah.
You had to when you started growing. You had to do a lot of fucking.
There wasn't even internet.
No, there was no internet. And if there was,
There might have been, but we didn't have it.
And then once internet started, if you're in Florida, you were afraid to
Afraid to use it.
put anything cannabis.
can't get on it. You can't get on
marijuana. Yeah, you wouldn't. You think that if you put the word marijuana or cannabis, the fucking feds were on
You can't get in a forum if you were here. If you were in Florida, you wouldn't get on these forums.
No
They were
way.
tracking everything you did online. I can't look at that.
yeah,
Don't even search for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Don't even put those words in your computer.
In your computer.
And then, so you guys kind of the same age, same age bracket. I didn't know about forums until I got to California, like in 2010, and it was actually a couple of years later that I got broad mites here. I never fucking. I didn't know what I was fighting. I couldn't see the fucking things. So I was going to have to sell the farm. And I broke down and I went into THC Farmer, I think. Was it THC Farmer? Yep. And I put some pictures and then fucking pam, 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 pam. I'm like, broad mites, what the fuck is broad mites? I thought it was TMV, like tobacco mosaic virus. And I started doing this research and then, long and behold, the fucking, the internet was right,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this seems pretty fucking cool.
Well, back then you could kind of trust the internet a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, late past 2010, yeah. But before that, like I said, I was in a point that, if I didn't figure out what was going on here, I was going to have to sell the farm and go back to Florida with the tail between my legs, and I didn't want to do that. So I took a risk and went into this THC farm, and I kind of figured what I was fighting, How can you fight something that you don't know what it is?
Well, back in the day, we didn't share knowledge. There was no knowledge. You had friends that you spoke to. Nobody had any correspondence. You didn't want to talk on the phone. You didn't want to write anything down. But heck, we had pagers. We weren't even sending texts. At the very beginning, back in the early 90s, you were running on a pager and weren't even sending messages necessarily through your
you didn't know
phone.
anybody that grew, and because you didn't share that information, and I think it was like 2006 or 7ish, you know, I kind of met another grower, and it's like, oh my God, this motherfucker. It was a Cuban guy, you know. Well, the Cuban guy. Well, no, I'm gonna go back. You know, I started growing with this. It was a three-way relationship. It was a white guy that had the know-how. This is when I started growing. White guy the know-how, and then me, and then it was a black guy. A black guy he was a very well-mannered black guy. He was a trainer, but he hated training. And then he was Mr. Black. The other guy was Mr. Pink, and I was Mr. Brown.
I love it.
We introduced each other, and then we started growing. But so then we were going. I would build the places, you know, and then I found another Cuban guy that grew, and then it helped me get my, you know, the information that he gave me helped us go to the next level. Yep. So you got rated over there in what year?
That was 1990.
1990. Okay.
And so what that turned out was the house my friends were living in, they had to leave. The landlord obviously found out we were growing and so we ended up moving south of Jacksonville into a place called Green Cove. And we got a single wide trailer that we lived in, and we got another trailer that we called our work trailer, and we built out our second room. Again, another hydroponic system. We did an NFT system, PVC grid, where we cut 3-inch holes in it, used red Solo cups with rock wool, and we were buying seeds from overseas. Amsterdam, late 80s, early 90s, you could order seeds out of High Times, would have links to Sensi seeds and stuff. So we were ordering seeds, growing from seed, because people didn't have mother rooms back then. Right? You were lucky if you could get the seed. You were lucky if you could grow from seed, but people weren't doing mother rooms in 1990, 91. I mean, maybe people were, but we didn't have multiple rooms. We had one room to flower in. So you vegged and flowered in the same room, and it would take you literally 3 months to run another crop because you had to start seeds again and get them and put them in. If you had a separate room, you could put some teens or something in, but we didn't get that sophisticated back then. Heck, we were still using lights, the sun circle. I don't know if you remember, if you ever even heard or seen a sun circle, but it would actually spin in a circle. It had like a magnetic electrical conductivity through it. So the 3 lights would be on arms, and they spun from a central unit. Okay. So the lights would spin in the room. I forget the manufacturer of that. But then we moved out there, and then we were doing that out there in Green Cove. We would grow flower, and because I grew up in Pennsylvania, the farther north you would go, the not as good the weed was. I had to be smuggled farther. So it seemed like it came in through Florida and Texas a lot. Texas from there, and Florida would bring in from South America. And so Florida would be a kind of a hub for stuff coming in both from Mexico and from South America. And then by the time a lot of this stuff, I'm sure some was coming in New York, but by the time it worked its way up from a Florida port, it got less and less. The good stuff got sold. The bad stuff, I guess, kept moving. So I was driving it back and forth up and down the East Coast, back to my friends in Pennsylvania.
Less and less product meant that the product fetched a higher ticket.
Exactly.
So that's why you decided to drive from South
north.
Florida and take it north. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then, guys, the only way this process worked for Bill back then of a crop taking 3 months from seed all the way to then is because there wasn't that much weed back then. Back then, you used to sell pounds in Florida for $4,400, $4,800. I'm sure when he went up north, he was probably getting 6,000 plus.
Yep. And we'd have droughts back then. When was the last time you heard about a weed drought? 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
Funny, we used to have weed droughts back then, but back then we did. I mean, I had like not warehouses, but it's more like I was in construction, so we always had warehouses for construction. But I had like those one car kind of garage. What is it? Storage places that you'd have all kinds of shit in there, but in the back there was box freezers. And those places don't have outlets, so it has like a light bulb, that you go in there to go look through your shit. And that light bulb thing, you pull it out and you put a plug, and then the light bulb, and then you just make sure that you always leave it on underneath to have power to their freezer. And whenever weed came in, if you had whatever money you had, you'd buy it all, and then you'd seal it with a food saver to a point, and then you don't squeeze it, but and you put it in the freezer because that would make sure that you'd have weed for
during the drought.
During the drought, exactly. You know what I'm saying, and then once it was a drought, you'd be the only one with the weed.
I remember in the 90s. Yeah, I remember in the 90s there would be like sheriff commercials and billboards. You think it's dry now? Just wait. I remember those.
I remember that. Yeah, how'd that work out for him?
Well, it doesn't work. Yeah, there's no drought anymore.
It didn't. What's up, guys? It's Mango here, and we're in the center of the Mango Tech showroom. When you say Troll Master, you think controllers. When you say Think-Grow LED, you think lighting. I'm here to tell you that Troll Master and Think-Grow are a whole cultivation system. Today we're going to touch on ICL 300 and the aero fans. There is no better combination in the market. ICL 300s are an inner canopy light that you set inside the canopy, and no, they're not 300 watts like some people may think. They're still 120 watts, but the 300 comes because they shine in 300 degrees. The ICL 150, that's up and coming here shortly, shines at 150 degrees because of its reverse V or A-frame style fixture. The 120 that's coming out is just like all the other regular ICLs or under canopy lights in the market. The ICL 300 and the ICL 150 are 4-spectrum tunable channel lights. That means you can play with each spectrum up and down to figure out what your strain likes best. All right, behind me, you see a single tier and a double tier. On the single tier, we have the ICL 300s on some PVC stands and some Thinker LED stands that bring the inner canopy light into the canopy, so the whole canopy gets lit up adaxially and abaxially, not just like an under canopy light, abaxially. All right, let's focus on the ICL 300 and the ICL 150. These are the Formula One, the Bugatti, the Ferrari of all inner canopy lights. Nothing comes even close to what these pair can do. Why? Because they're 4-channel spectrum tunable light. You can tune your whites, your deep reds, your far reds, and your UV to a recipe that suits your plants. You guys remember at the beginning when I said that TrolMaster and Thinker LED are a cultivation system, not just a lighting and controller company. And this is exactly what I was talking about. The ICLs are now set on a unistrut rail system that you'll never have to waste any time putting and taking off any stands. The rail will also double as a mount for your new TrolMaster Aero fans to deliver freshly climate controlled CO2 enriched air into your canopy. Nothing else comes close. Check it out. If you're interested in the system, hit the link below, www.mangotech.store. We got you. From A to Z, one-stop shop. Let's go. So you had this trailers, you know, and you were driving the fucking weed up north in the 1990s when you got raided. You came here in 2010.
Yep.
So that was like 20 years that you guys
There
did
was.
that?
I didn't do that for 20 years. I was doing that. I did that for a few years. I got married. I stopped cultivating. I was still flipping packs. I eventually stopped flipping packs. Got divorced, and then I was free to grow again. So we picked it back up. And even fast forward to then, even in the mid 2000s, leading into 2010 before we left, the reality of it was, if you got caught there, you're going to do 5 or 10 years for any kind of volume of growing at all. 100%. And so the risk began to outweigh the reward. Mm-hmm. And so that's what led to us deciding Florida. You know this as a contractor. 2008, the bottom dropped out. Yes. And it wasn't just housing; it was everything because it affected everything.
Got my ass kicked.
So yeah, Florida was bad then for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so we're just sitting around looking around, and we're like, why are we doing this? And that's what led to leading out west.
So you were obviously had a school by that time. So did you guys ever have like, you know, any profession, any jobs? What kind of jobs did you guys work back?
Well, I had a landscape company. I did exterior landscaping,
okay,
which we talked about was great for meeting your clientele, because you're moving around in your landscape truck, and they could just come meet you at whatever job you're at. So you're not ever doing any of your transactions in just one place.
Did you work for him, or did you have?
He did.
Most of the times he's had businesses. I've worked for them off and on, the landscaping business for sure, and our business before we left Florida was construction adjacent as well. It was cutting architectural shapes out of foam, coating them with styrocrete, and they became accent pieces on the outside of homes.
Pieces, yes.
On all the stucco homes. So when they stopped building the homes, they stopped needing all the ancillary pieces that went along with it. So that was kind of what precipitated our move there. But yeah, during that time, I had a couple of different jobs in mainstream companies. Worked in Jacksonville. There was a company called IDS Sports that did the scoring networks for LPGA and all the PGA Tour and tennis tours. So I actually traveled around the country and the world for the LPGA Golf Tour for 2 years. And then worked with a friend's company that did a lot of window tinting, commercial and residential. And then we went and did a lot of garden center repair work at Walmart's when all the hurricanes rolled through.
Right.
For 3 or 4 years. We traveled around the Southeast repairing all the metal truss systems at garden centers. It's funny how many of these things came back around when we moved out west and got involved in cultivation and got involved in cannabis, and a lot of unrelated skill sets at the time we seem that have served us well as we've navigated the cannabis industry.
Well, I mean, and anybody that's cultivated when it wasn't legal, you had to be a MacGyver. You had to be a jack of all trades. You couldn't tell anybody what you were doing. You couldn't trust anybody. You had to learn how to run electrical wire. You had to learn at least how to service HVAC. You couldn't just have no knowledge. You had to learn how to do some plumbing, irrigation potentially, right? Then you had to learn how to grow as well. So I mean, being a cultivator. And gathering all of your life experiences before that, they all then come together, and then you end up using them more. And now, navigating what is cannabis now, good Lord, all that stuff's just continued through being a jack of all trades. You do the same thing. I see you.
Yes, I was a general contractor. I started cooking, and then that actually also helped this business now, because there was a structure with with corporate stuff like that. Where I worked at a high-end resort in North Broward, South Palm Beach. That I was young, I was in school, so I couldn't really do construction full time. I did cooking at nighttime. Whenever there was a long break, summer or anything over 2 weeks, I would go work construction since I was in 9th grade. But the structure of the corporate world from the restaurant business, and then the measuring and the structuring kind of helped me through construction. Yep. Construction helped me obviously learn how to build things, and grows, and then I had access to all the plumbers. I had access to all the electricians. I knew who smoked, the electricians that smoked. Hey, I'm that guy, the AC, the AC guy and stuff like that. Yep. So I didn't really have to learn how to run wire, thank God, because I knew the guy that would run the wire. I knew the guy that was, that was going to help me tap. He taught me how to tap electric and stuff like that. So I would pay them really, really good, because also if there's something that happens, I can have you come back and fix it. So my deal was I would build grows for people for costs.
Right.
Whatever it cost me is going to cost you is going to be done professionally. They knew that I would build, but I would have the rights of refusal to every fucking pound that came out of that place. It wouldn't go anywhere, and I would, it would never go anywhere. I would take it all. So you guys then came here. What year? What year?
Well, we actually didn't come directly to California.
Okay.
We left Florida in 2010. We took a trip. We realized we had to get out of the East Coast, because we were watching the West Coast. The West Coast in California legalized medically in 1996. Washington and Oregon followed shortly after that. So the medical programs in the early 2000s were already here. And so they were still giving out long sentences in Florida.
Colorado was
our first adult use was Colorado. Medical, though, was California with an actual big
correct,
program.
1996,
in 96.
super early.
But there's even like I think Maine and maybe New Mexico had some descheduling / medical, where it wasn't not descheduled. I just had a brain fart on the word for it. Where it's not legal, but you also don't go to jail for it anyway.
Correct. Okay, gotcha.
That there may be a couple states before that, but California was the largest available population that did a medical program that was statewide to that scale. Was in '96.
So you say you didn't come to California. Where did you go?
Yeah. We came out to visit a friend of ours in Colorado, and we went to a Western Slope Cannabis Cup in Aspen, just to check it out, because Colorado did have a medical program in 2010. They weren't adult use yet. I think Colorado did adult use in 2014, and so they beat California by a few years.
12, but
yeah,
14. Okay. I think you
I think it's 14. California passed in 16, but they didn't let it implement until 18.
Okay.
So California really didn't have an adult use program until 18. And we went there and they changed the rules. So when we got there in 2010, after going to an event to see what the scene was like, the industry was like, we were like, hey, this is great. We can come here. We can be, back then you could be a caregiver. So you could cultivate at your own home, and you could legally take product to dispensaries, and they could purchase it from you. And so you were a medical provider in Colorado. They changed that in 2010, about 6 months after we got there, and they only allowed dispensaries to share product, and only up to a certain percentage of their product. You can only share like 30%. So you had to use 70. Before that, they were growing it themselves, but also taking it from caregivers. So when they changed the caregiver law, we were like, listen, we already moved west to be legal, right? At least medically in the state. Now we're not. So we had a friend of ours that was out here in LA, and LA at the time, and California in general, was the only place that you could go spend about $5,000 to set up a nonprofit. And you could gather patients, and for every patient you had, you could grow 6 plants. And so we were like, man, this is fantastic. Coming from Florida, where they lock you up for it, I get 100 people, I can grow 600 plants. This is great. So that's what led us to LA.
And knowing what I know now, I came eventually when I got to California. It was so fucking hot in Florida. I had gotten raided, and I ran out the bag. Got out. Got blessed that they didn't catch me. I went through some shit, but I knew that They wanted me really, really bad because they knew that I was, people talk, they knew that I was building these places. I never sat in one, so he couldn't catch me. I had a real business. I was a contractor, and they couldn't really catch me sitting in a place, but they were watching the shit out of me, and I could see them. I mean, you can see these guys when you look. I just realized, I said, you know what? They're going to catch me slipping at some point. Time is on their side. You know what I mean? We got to get lucky every fucking time.
Every day.
You only got to get lucky once. You only got to get fucking lucky once, and then you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? You're doing 3, 5, 7, 8 years, depending on you know, how bad of a hard on they got for you, and how much money you got to defend yourself. Because you know, the more money you have, the better attorney does get you lesser time. That's just the fucking way it is. So I just knew that I had to get out of there. So know what I know now about the fucking card thing, because I've also been rated here in California, and then I know that that fucking 6 thing per patient is kind of fugazi. It's really only six plants per person, and the stacking cards was a thing that, you know, people did with the doctors and this and that and the other, and you know, I've learned that that's kind of bullshit, but people got away with it for a long time. You know, there was kind of like, the bigger the city, you get away with it, but if you go to a fucking small city or a small town like Oroville, whatever it is, they would tell you, fuck you, take your cards and go beat a kid, you're going to jail. But that was, you know, that's what got me hooked too. I'm from Florida. Well, you can come here. It was a friend of mine, Angelo C. Green. He took me to some attorney in L.A., and he had this fucking, it was the weirdest, strange attorney. This little packet, and he made you feel like, man, you're really not going to get in trouble. But L.A. was hectic for me. LA was super hectic. A lot of people here grew in warehouses. In Florida, you didn't grow in warehouses. Fuck no, it was all houses. You know what I'm saying? It made you feel somewhat like nobody knows. The warehouse thing, it was like, you know, it was just, we weren't comfortable in Florida growing. So I didn't like the LA thing, and then it was expensive, the traffic. I went to San Francisco, and then that was the same fucking thing. And I finally I ended up going to a small town in like Oroville, you know, well, meth head fucking town, which I didn't know anybody, nobody knew me, and it was great. So anyway, you guys came here, I mean, you guys went to Colorado, right? And then they changed the laws. You know, how long did you guys actually spend in Colorado?
Not even
under a year. Yeah.
Under a year. Okay, so fuck, you moved there. They changed the law 6 months later. You said, you know, we got to get out of here, and then you went to L.A. And then it's okay. So talk to me. What happened in L.A.?
Like Bill said, had a friend here that helped us set up and start a nonprofit. Our first cultivation was actually in a mother-in-law suite in Garden Grove behind someone's house. What was it?
How many lights?
12?
Yeah, we had, it was a mother-in-law suite with a couple rooms, so we were able to have a veg area with that.
Okay.
And we did that. It was, we probably had no more than 8 flower lights and maybe 3 or 4
That's
veg.
what I was thinking, 4 and 8.
All right.
So it wasn't big. Nobody knew who we were. We'd never been to LA for a living of anything like that. So we had about 5 people we knew here. So we literally just had to start pounding the streets and find dispensaries and people to buy the product from, because we didn't know anybody. And so 11 and 12, we did it without any name at all. But in 13 is when we started Beard Bros, is when we officially had a nonprofit. So really 11 and 12, we weren't technically legal. By 13, we set up a nonprofit. We began gathering signatures. Now, a lot of things they did, which they talked about was fugazi, was the 99 plant count that counties would let you have. Feds and other state instances didn't care about that, right? The 6 per patient could stand up because it was actually written into Prop 215. That you could be a collective. That actually SB 420 was the collective model, and that happened in 2003. So 96 was just individual patients' rights, and that you could grow it as an individual. 2003 and SB 420 was where they started the collective model, because they realized that, hey, patients can grow it, but people that are sick can't necessarily grow their own. And quite honestly, even though people say weed is easy to grow, I tend to think differently. Not everybody can grow weed. It's one thing to water a house plant. It's another thing to take care of a plant that can interbreed with itself and with other plants, and has a cycle and flowers and fruits. Your house plants, you just put water and peaters on and they're good.
Correct.
And so we by 13 we started Beard Bros. We noticed that Prop 19 did not go through in 2010, I think it was. It didn't pass in 10 or 12. And so we realized that if we didn't brand ourselves, we would be watering somebody else's plants, both metaphorically and seriously. So that's why we started Beard Bros. We were growing good product. We moved from houses. We eventually moved into warehouses in LA because that's what everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
The wild part to me is LA is the Wild West. Like, there's warehouses downtown with hundreds of lights, and they've been there for like 20 years.
Still, to this
and
day,
they're
I know.
still there.
I know.
And they're
It's-
still pumping out
It's
flower.
crazy. Yeah,
It-
California still is the wild.
well, LA is just so big. The reality of it is LA is so big they can't police it. Let's be real.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Watts riots, the Rodney King riots. If people decide to riot, they ain't stopping shit in LA. There's just too many people compared to law enforcement.
Right.
You know, there's 10 million people in that 80-mile area.
Yeah, way other shit too. Like
Yeah.
I say, California. I mean, weed's kind of somewhat legal in California. It's like, you know what? They're just potheads. You know, they just let them do their thing.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
really worry about it. They got bigger fish to fry, for example.
So we started Beard Bros officially in 2013. We had our logo created for us by a friend of ours named MJ, and we gave her $50 and a half ounce of sour diesel that we were growing, and she created the Beard Bros logo that you still see today.
You guys can't fucking shave.
We can't shave. Well, actually, the joke is that's our exit plan. When it was illegal, if we had to go on the run, we shaved our beards and let our hair grow, and nobody'd know who we were.
That's fucking hilarious.
So that
yeah.
was our trick. I do want to jump something in there about the beard. So we moved to Colorado. We came there from Florida, and Jeff had a little goatee, and I had one of the, not a thick beard. It was very close cropped and kept clean. And the locals thought we were cops coming into the mountains to check it out. And we're like, oh my God, so we need to fit in. So we literally grew our beards out in Colorado to fit in. When we moved to LA, and by the time we started Beard Bros because we did stand out. Because in 11 and 12 in LA, people didn't have big beards. You know, Duck Dynasty was a Florida thing back
Yes,
then.
yes.
And
Florida.
and people didn't have big beards in LA. So ironically, what we used to blend in one culture was what we used to stand out in the other one.
It's funny that you say that because I got my own story about that. When I moved from Florida, South Florida to Oroville, which is, you know, very
That's a big change.
big change. Yes, I used to have this fat freaking diamond earrings, fat diamond earrings, and I remember going up to this. I had a little place outside of Oroville. I mean, somewhat in town, 6.5 acres. You know, nice fucking property. You know, I made it nice, but I would go up visit my friend up Berry Creek. They call it Meth Mountain because I guess they used to fucking do a lot of meth up there or whatever, or maybe manufacture. Who knows? But I used to go up there, and then there's this one hillbilly dude looked at me one day, and because I was meeting my friend off the road because I didn't know how to get up to the mountain. So he goes, "I'll meet you at the bottom of this mountain, this little bar, little gas station, whatever." And then we'll drive up the mountain because, you know, even the GPSs would fucking show dirt road, and, you know, there was no addresses or something. So this one hillbilly guy looks at me and goes, man, he's looking at me like this. He goes, I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with this dude? And then he says, bro, them earrings, man, I can't see, it's blinding me, dude. I'm fucking, oh my God, dude. I went back to the little place. I took the fucking things off. I said, I'm never wearing these things again. It's like you stand out. You know, you can do that shit down in Miami or in South Florida, but you ain't doing that shit up in this little redneck town. So from then on, I started fucking wearing the dirtiest shit I could find because nobody had no money. They look all, you know, disassembled or whatever, you know, old ripped up shit. And that was, you know, and then from then on, I just kind of blended in.
You got to blend in.
Got to hide in plain sight.
Exactly.
That's what we liked about LA. You said it was too chaotic. There's a lot going on there. We actually looked at that as a benefit. We looked at it like you could hide in plain sight. That LA was so much going on
So
that
much.
a couple of people growing weed in a couple of warehouses didn't stand out at all, and it still really doesn't. Quite honestly.
You know what? It's like my friend was there. My friend Angelo, Seal Green Lounge. Shout out to Seal Green Lounge. You know, I flew out and I checked out his thing, his warehouse, and we had to go to Home Depot. And like, fuck, dude, 2-hour ride to fucking Home Depot. Home Depot's down the street. It took us 2 fucking hours. I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, you know, I'm a busy person. I can't sit on traffic.
Yep.
It's like, dude, you know what I could have got accomplished in those 2 fucking hours?
Yep.
And I sat in a fucking car, just
in
go
the
to
car.
Home Depot to get fucking, you know, a $3 part because I can't finish the plumbing. It just drove me fucking nuts. I just couldn't take that. San Francisco was kind of the same thing, and then same thing. It's expensive as hell. And then here you gotta pay rent to live in a house, and then you gotta pay rent in a fucking warehouse. Like,
Yeah.
It just didn't seem sense. You know, didn't make sense. Fuck, I gotta live somewhere. I'm gonna grow weed there. You know what I'm saying? I gotta pay rent. I gotta pay electric for that place or whatever it is. So that's kind of what's my mentality. All right, so you guys got into the big leagues. You guys started doing warehouses.
We did.
So you went from the 8 to 12 lights. You know, some 8 flowering, 3 to 4 lights vegging, and you know, moms. How big was the first freaking warehouses?
The first warehouse was about 30 flower lights.
Okay, and that's big. Back
Yeah,
then.
it
What
was
year?
pretty big. That was we were houses from 11 to probably 13-ish. We got into the first warehouse around 14 and got into a bigger warehouse in 15. So we had 2 warehouses by 15. now what I do again, that's what the things you didn't like about LA is what I liked. We started out, we were in Garden Grove, and we were living in basically North Long Beach. So we were living somewhere separate than the mother-in-law suite where we were cultivating at. But that was enough that we got a little name for ourselves. We were growing some good flower. People appreciated it. We left there. We moved to the San Fernando Valley. And the crazy part about this is the way cannabis was back then, even in 13, you didn't know everybody's story. So we moved to the San Fernando Valley not really knowing the history of the San Fernando Valley. Now, we have found out since then, Josh D. and Kenji and Redline and Wonder Bread, all those guys, I think it was by divine purpose now, but by then it wasn't intentional. We moved to San Fernando Valley, then I start meeting people like Kenji and Josh. I'm like, oh my God, you guys go back to the OG that was in the mid 90s that started getting big here in the early 2000s in LA. And so we just got really lucky and blessed to move into there and meet people like that. And then the community kicks in because now you're seeing these guys at events. You know, High Times was throwing events in LA, in San Bernardino from basically, we were at them from 11 on. And that's actually where people used to move a lot of packs. So people from the East Coast knew that if you went to a High Times event in San Bernardino, you would meet people like us, and we just might have some packs in the trunk.
Correct.
And then it was up to them to do with it what they wanted. So we looked at it like we were moving medical packs in California legally.
Old school. Like
Old
it wasn't fucking Instagram going to DM, hey man,
No.
show packs.
No.
It's like,
Telegram.
the game is fucking changed
Yeah.
like crazy.
Yeah.
Some for good,
Yeah.
and some it's just like
Yeah.
back then you had to have balls. You had to go fucking get the airline ticket. You have to first find an event, go fly across country,
Yeah.
and try to be cool with people, meet people, and try to have a relationship. Now it goes on in the DM.
And a lot of the reason that people know who Beard Bros are is because we hooked up with a guy named Mickey Martin. He passed away, I believe it was 2018 or 19, but he was a big activist here in the Bay Area. He had cultivations in Richmond and Oakland and things like that. I had met him from Facebook, and I just dogged this guy to let me sell his edibles that he was making in 2012 and 13 is when I just kept DMing him, man, I want to sell your edibles in LA. I got to make more. I'm selling out here, make more. Finally, he let me. So we went up there, we met him. And he was the way we got into a lot of shops. And he's actually the one that put us onto Instagram at that time. And this was 12-ish.
Okay.
And so he was very instrumental in people knowing who Beard Bros were because he got us in the door. The edibles he made back then, he was making pita crisps and baklava and truffles. He had these cookies were $5. They were 100 milligrams. Everything made out of can of butter. So, I mean, back then, they were $3. The dispensaries were selling them for $6. They were doubling them, and you could get a 100 milligram cookie for $6 at a dispensary. And so he got us in the door with products that weren't average, right? Everybody's showing it. The line with guys with duffel bags in 12 and 13 and 14 to go see the buyer was long. Yeah. I remember sitting in lobbies of dispensaries in LA with 5 other guys with duffel bags. And you're like, God, I hope I get in there and they take mine before they run out of money.
Everybody's sitting there with the fucking bag.
With a bag, with a duffel bag.
Yes,
So I'd say,
hey, come on in.
coming from the East Coast, that was surreal. I still get goosebumps.
It was fucking weird. It was awkward. I didn't like it.
And you'd walk into a room with just turkey bags piled up behind
Yeah, it was crazy. And they
a guy at a desk,
It was just stuff.
determining if you were going to walk out of there with your
Yep.
duffel bag or money.
So Mickey would get us in the door because he would put together a sample pack of all his products. And it was like 20 different things to choose from, and I would go in and show these. Oh, you like these? Well, by the way, I also cultivate. Me and my brother cultivate. Would you like to look at some packs? And so that got us into selling our flower in there. Mickey was already on Instagram, so we started a SoCal Compassionate Edibles Instagram page. I'm like, well, why don't we start one for ourselves? And actually, we started working with Mickey before I think we even made Beard Bros. Mickey's what I think made us realize we need to brand ourselves because he had a brand. And we're like, again, if nobody knows who we are, you can grow the best weed in the world, but if nobody knows it, who are you selling it to?
Yeah, those
right?
guys or that brand, that brand. You know what I mean?
And so that would get us in. We got to the point where producing between 50 and 100 pounds, depending on which warehouses. One was about 50 lights, one was closer to 100. So that's the numbers we were hitting every month or so. We didn't really go outside the San Fernando Valley. We got really lucky with that. We met shops. The San Fernando Valley had a lot of shops back in the day. 12, 13, 14, 15. There was a ton of medical shops there. Probably 100 minimum that were well known within.
What year did you go to California?
11.
11. Okay. So all right. So 12, 13. Before you went into the shops, how were you selling your weed?
We were literally knocking on doors at shops. So the shops we were buying pot from, we would come back with pot.
Okay.
Or it was also friends of friends. So, after a while there, we had a couple people that we knew when we moved there, and they knew some people. Matter of fact, we even ended up with ties to Hollywood back then. we were selling some products to what was the show? The Shaws of Sunset was a TV show, and we were selling. We sold some packs to people that knew them, so we went through Hollywood. Because we were so near Hollywood, we've had pot that Joe Rogan had on his show and smoked with people from Gino at Speedweed, which was a very well-known delivery. He had 70,000 patients. Back when you would keep a patient count,
Yes.
he had 70,000 people on his delivery. It was the biggest delivery in the world at the time. And Gino liked us. He liked our product. So he would take our product in. He'd say, hey, go watch Joe Rogan. And he's got this big box of Speedweed and this is yours in there. Then it gets to other celebrities. So you start to build a name up of quality product. So we never had to ship anywhere. People either came to us in California or it was sold to shops, which was a blessing because we really didn't want to end up shipping stuff back and forth. That's how you lose product, you lose friends, you lose trust, all that stuff. I don't want to ship any of that.
Yeah, or friends get in trouble on the other side, and you're like,
And then you get in trouble.
Yes, you could get in trouble, or you feel fucking bad that this dude's going to fucking jail because he just got packs.
Yep.
Yes. I remember doing that. 2010 is when I went to California. I didn't make the full move. I would go fly back and forth. Construction, and then I kind of set up my places right. They're automated. I had SOPs on paper, and then they would get, updated every so often. And I go back and forth. I had issues. 2014 is when I think I got on Instagram, and then I got on Instagram because I wanted to check out other people's grows. Back then you couldn't fucking, make the screen bigger. So you had to screen shoot the thing
And then make it bigger.
And then make it bigger. And then how did they hang this? How to hang that? Just because that's kind of what interested me. I want to build better grows. I want to grow, build bigger grows to have more weed.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting thing for me. So it was 2014 is when I started the Instagram career. And it went pretty good until I started getting fucking deleted all the time. What year did I meet you? I think you guys were in LA, and I think I went down to LA for some kind of event, and then you guys reached out to me. We were kind of
I had seen you originally online.
touching base on Instagram, and then we had dinner or some
Rainbow Room. I took you to the Rainbow Room.
Restaurant, yeah.
You met me at the Rainbow Room on Sunset Boulevard.
That's where it was.
And we had dinner.
Yes.
With Jeff and Monica. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were there too? Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. So you guys know.
Yeah. So we literally, dude, I saw who you were because I'm a grow room geek too. Like I wanna make stuff efficient. I wanna have new equipment. I wanna automate as much as possible so I can actually spend more time with the plants. Because the menial stuff, I know you joke about it, hand watering. Now there is a cool thing about hand watering is you will be spending time with your plants. That's the good part.
Watering them.
Well, while you're watering, you can look
counting.
at
1, 2,
Dude,
3.
how many times did I count? Dude, no lie. How many times have I counted? It's crazy.
You see my memes. Who did it better? The guy at the gym that's training you, counting fucking how many reps, or the watering boy with a wand over there? I could never.
Yep.
I've never, even since 1996,
Yep.
when I built my first grow room, that shit was on a timer. I didn't have the fucking time.
Well, we had our lights on a timer, but we weren't doing irrigation on timers.
I did irrigation
Yeah.
on a timer.
And it's crazy because I had a landscape company in Florida, and I built irrigation systems in yards.
And they're on a fucking timer.
I still did it by hand.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess back in the day it was more. I get what you're saying. It is smart to automate, obviously, but I guess it was more of a feel thing. So in other words, like I used to water my plants, but I would water them how much water they got depending on how heavy they were. And if you're on a timer, you ain't picking it up and feeling how heavy it is. So that's how I learned, and that's how I continued
and
to
then,
do it.
you guys growing soil back then, or cocoa, or
We were doing a mix. So we would like to, we would use cocoa. We didn't get into hydro because the original stuff I built in 90 was hydro because we thought it was neat. But the reality of it is when you're trying to fill up a warehouse and you didn't want to build something, you can buy 3-gallon pots and some cocoa core and go to town.
Right, okay.
And so we did have stuff in trays so it didn't just drain on the floor, right? But we didn't set up whole systems. Actually, the first systems we set up in the one warehouse in 14, we just put in, we ran PVC pipe down and drilled holes and just used 1/2-inch black tubing with the, remember they had just the ones that just had a stick with a V at the top, and you could stick your you could stick your 1/4-inch tube into it. That's what we built first. So we were automatic watering that way. But then we didn't even go full. We would actually open it up and count each tray. So we still didn't put it on a timer.
Okay.
But I like plants, so I don't mind watering. So obviously, when you get to scale, you can't water all your plants. But again, I always felt like the more you are around the plant, working in it, doing things with it, you just had a better feel for what it was doing.
Yeah, my argument to that is if it's on the timer, you can actually be doing shit with the plant instead of
Right,
just
while it's
fucking
watering,
it,
yeah, I
you know?
agree.
And then that's kind of one of the things that got me freaking either I guess hated on Instagram, because I used to make fun of freaking hand watering, but at that time I think I had gotten rated already, and then I was selling. I got blessed that I met the dude from Trollmaster, and we had the Aqua X, and it was like a blessing to me. Like, fuck, I met this guy, so how am I going to sell controllers? I don't have a fucking grow anymore. I'm not blessed. Back then, it's like, you see Jungle Boy shit. It's like, I didn't have the ability to walk into a 120 light room and this is what I got, whatever. I had to kind of reinvent the wheel. And then the memes were kind of hot back then. Everybody was kind of, call it trolling, and that's why they made fun of Trollmaster. Trollmaster? What the fuck is this? Oh my God, we got picked on for that name so much. But anyway, so I started making memes, it's so easy a caveman can do it. And then, fucking people in California, especially Humboldt, there's people, I remember the days like, don't ever come here because we're not going to find you. We got plenty of land and plenty of heavy equipment.
They're never going to find you.
We're never going to find you. We want to be one with the plant, and hand watering is fucking better and this and all that shit. I'm like, dude, fucking feed's feed. As long as it's in there, it's in there. And, I don't have the time to sit there. So that's kind of how I reinvented myself with this.
So I found you because of that. I saw your Instagram, and you were doing things, building grows that I was interested in because I always wanted to make my grow better.
So I think we chatted on Instagram or something, and I met you at that Rainbow Room.
Rainbow Room,
and we had dinner, and then we were kind of friends for a while there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a while, until I got, I guess what do you say, drafted by Kim Rivers.
Yes. See, I remember cussing you out. How can you work with True Leaf?
You were mad as fuck
How
at
can
me.
you work with True Leaf?
Yeah. And then what I say, obviously everybody's got their own opinion. Like I said, we're in this podcast. We can agree to disagree because we're all fucking adults. But I think I think I turned you a little bit, or you turned yourself a little bit. In a way.
I don't know if I've turned, but what I've recognized is that even True Leaf's not my actual adversary with this. Okay. So True Leaf is either going to be absorbed by a larger company or move on, but they're not who I need to go against, right? I feel like I have just as big a presence on social media as they do, so I've already won, right? On social media, I'm more well known than True Leaf is. They certainly have a lot more retails than I do, but I'm more well known on online than they are, and so that's the part of building a brand. I've always said that the only advantage small companies and individuals have against the big corporate money is your authenticity online. Because they can't fake that funk.
Because I understand why you were mad, at the True Leaf, and I understand. And I was there too. I was in Florida, when legalization was trying to come, and then it didn't make it. I had my fucking set of plans drawn. I had my performance. I had everything done because I was in the legal. I was also a business owner. I was a general contractor, licensed. I built high-end homes for a fucking living, and I had a double life. At nighttime, I would fucking grow and build grows for my friends that were fucking surfers, and then I would build all the grows I had to maintain. I had double life: the builder and then the drug dealer per se, And I balanced them both. I could do both at the same time. And a lot of people didn't know about either life. Very few people knew that I had a fucking life. So I had my performa, all this ready, and then when it didn't happen, I was fucking like let down. So fuck, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? It didn't happen, and then the next time you had to be like a landscaper for fucking 30 years and all this kind of shit. And like fuck, that.
So we moved west to learn, to get more knowledge, because obviously it wasn't out in the open on the East Coast. We moved west to get more knowledge with the intent of going back to Florida. And so the way the Florida system ended up going through the legislative, they only gave out, originally it was 5 areas. Correct. Then it went to 7 areas. So they were only going to give out 7 licenses because of the structure they put around their medical program. So I feel like the people that were responsible for that structure boxed me out from being able to go back with what the intent was, which was to gain knowledge from people in California that have been doing it for years longer than I have, and go back to Florida and be around the family and stuff. So we got to California, and then we had no path back to Florida. So that's where my discouragement with the current Florida market goes.
And I could understand, like I said, people's dislike of that, and they get yelled at and they get freaking harassed all the time for that. But what I see that lady did that nobody else, I don't think nobody had done what she did. You know what I'm saying? She's a smart woman. She's a smart woman. She, and business works when it goes both ways. You know what I'm saying? Both people are benefiting from it. She was the first one to go out there, the first fucking big cannabis company to go out there and say, you know what, how am I going to grow, how am I going to get my exposure? She would go to people that had a name for cannabis. I think for cannabis, and because learn maybe from them, but also get exposure to her brand. Chris from Sunshine Cannabis was one of the first persons that she started working with, and he had a lot of genetics. I didn't know Chris back then. I didn't know him. He was already working with Truly for a while. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got into Truly, because of Chris. Chris has always been nice to me, cordial on Instagram. That's how we kind of met. And I believe that was because of him that I was able to get into Truly. But Kim Rivers reached out to me, or whether maybe Chris told her to. And then, there was this thing, these competitions, I forget, the girl Chloe.
Yeah.
She was having
Florida Cannabis Awards.
Florida Cannabis Awards. I want some cultivation award, which I got my own feelings about that. But anyway, she reached out to me when we were going to MJ Biss, and she said, can you meet with me? And then she reached out to me, which she didn't have to by any means, but she said, you know what, this guy might help my brand, get out there, products, whatever it is. So, and then she reached out to me and said, hey, you'd be interested in this? And then I said, yeah, why not? So I think after she started, signing a couple of people to say, to get her other MSOs, they started doing the same thing. Like the Flowery now does the same thing. They got Preferred.
They got brands in.
They got, the Backpack Boys, and they got other, Doja, Wizard Trees and stuff like that. But she was the original, so she took a chance on me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the money, the expertise, the connections. And like I said, there are the connections to be able to make it happen. But she reached out to me. So, that was, to me, that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Now that's kind of like a standard thing. Now brands kind of, believe it, I guess I'm a small MSO because I'm in Florida and I'm in California. And
we like to call ourselves a MSB, a multi-state brand.
Okay, all right.
Because we're not the organization.
Okay,
we have products in other states, but we don't have the whole organization.
Operators.
Operator.
You're right. I'm not an operator. Brand MSB. I like that.
MSB. Yeah.
I like
we
that.
tried to get away from the MSO moniker.
I like that. Okay. What's up, guys? I'd like to take this time to thank our current sponsors. First and foremost, I would like to thank Trollmaster. Trollmaster is the king of automation. Nothing else like it in the world. It really is the future of intelligent farming. Also, would like to thank LED, the king of spectrum tuning. High tech, high yields. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Mango Juice. If you ain't juicing, you're losing. But in Florida, they got to put you on the license. I had to go through some rigorous thing that they actually put you on the license. I don't know. Don't quote me. I don't know.
That's good if you
how
did.
It works. Yeah, you have to put you on there. You have to go through a clearance. They actually have to put your name.
I know that they had to designate a cultivator at each license. Mm-hmm. So each license has to have an individual that is their cultivator, and they can only have one. And then it's up to that particular cultivator at that license as to what they will or won't do.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So there was some kind of the old school way of it. They did it was some kind of designated cultivator.
So like I said, a lot of people were mad at me, but they called me a sellout, and this and that and the other. But you know what? I got kids to feed. I got a wife to, things to pay. I got rated, and then what I tell people is, I hope I sell out of every fucking product, in every shelf.
I am a sellout. I want to sell out of products. Yeah, I mean,
I want to sell out. If I'm selling out, I'm fucking, you know what I mean? Who doesn't want to sell out, in a way? You know what I'm saying? So that's my comeback to haters, that call me a sellout. You know what? And I hate to say it, because there's even people that we know that once they've made the change from, legacy underground operators, and then somehow they've made it, they're laughing now, no matter where they're at. Because, and they've said this under close lips for, so it's like, I hope nobody else makes it because I made it in, you know what I'm saying? So I feel sometimes maybe a little bit of angerness or jealousness in a way, or maybe like, fuck, they made it and I didn't. And you know what? It just happened. It wasn't like, it wasn't planned. It just happened. So I took it, like I said, I've had a business before. I had a double life, and I saw that as a good opportunity for me. And even though they get a lot of slack for what happened with their husband, her husband, the way they got caught. And then my answer to that is like, you know what? I hate to say it, but if I would have known somebody that was in the higher up, I would have done the same fucking thing. You know? And they might look at me, whatever. You guys might, or somebody might harp on me, but you know what? If it's not a crime, who am I to say what crime or you can commit or you can't commit? Because we broke the law. We broke the law all the time. So you can break this law, but you can't break that law. As long as it's not I don't know if there's a word, a moral turpitude, crime, like like pedophile or murder
other people.
hurt other people. You know what? Who am I to fucking judge you
Yep.
for what you did to get to where you're at? You know, as long as you didn't hurt nobody per se. You know, so I mean that's my feel. That's my feel. So then, let's go back to you guys' story. You guys were cultivators, and now you guys are which this doesn't happen much. You guys were able to, you know, some people made it into cultivation. You know, and I thought I got raided in 2017. Half a year before legalization,
Yep.
it crushed me.
We got raided in the end of 15. It got us too. We got raided in
California?
LA.
California?
Yep.
Okay, really?
Got
Okay,
raided in LA.
Let's talk about that. What happened in the warehouses?
So we had 2 warehouses at the
Okay.
time. Must have been somebody that talked. There never was a witness listed on the paperwork. Jeff had left for work one morning. He had left before me because he was going to go do some stuff. The veg lights came on before the flower lights. Jeff handled the veg area. I handled the flower area. So he could go in earlier than me. What's that?
I've heard that before. I
Yeah.
think you guys have told me this before.
And so, so he had left, but he left early. And the guys, the police were coming to raid us. We got raided locally, so it was a Valley. Van Nuys came and got us, right? So Van Nuys was waiting for us. Jeff left early, so they had to pull him over. And so they pulled him over and had him in cuffs when they actually came into the house where I still was. Luckily, they did that because he had the keys. And so they opened the door. So what I woke up to that morning was I was getting coffee in the kitchen. And I heard noise at the door, and I thought I heard keys and stuff. And I said, well, what's Jeff coming back for? So I poked my head out down the hallway to look out the front door, and I saw a shield and a helmet. I said, that's not fucking Jeff. And so they came in the front door. I found out later they got Jeff. I got to stand outside so the neighbors could see me in handcuffs and my home clothes, my sleeping clothes
Walk of shame.
all morning. It wasn't even a walk. I was outside I was outside from like 7 a.m. till they actually took us to jail at 11 or 12 or whatever it was. So we got raided, but we were legal. We had paperwork. We were actually, Jason Beck at the time was the co-founder of Oswego, and he was going to go to trial for us to say that his patients, we were going for them as well. So we had a very good defense. And it was, our first arraignment was Christmas Eve night. So we got December 3rd. We remember that day. Every year at December 3rd, we think back of being raided. And then Christmas, 3 weeks
July
later.
27th.
See, everybody knows the day they got raided. I don't remember the 1990 day, but I remember the
I have
2015.
2 December 3rd, 16 years apart.
Get the fuck out of here. Same day?
Florida possession one.
Oh, shit.
Same day.
December 3rd. We hide on December 3rd.
December 3rd, yeah. You
My
fucking
senior year of college, I got a possession charge coming back from Jacksonville to Gainesville.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So they came, they got us. They went to both warehouses, cut all the weed down. To add insult to injury, they actually used our van that they pulled Jeff over in, which they should not have, to transport all the evidence to the jail, which was had to be 20 fucking 55-gallon contractor bags stuffed full of green weed. It had to be. I mean, they cut down 150, almost 150 lights worth of weed that they cut down in 2 different warehouses, Van Nuys and Canoga Park. And so then they parked our van outside and left it on the street, and the detective came in and said, your van's outside, but if you don't have somebody come move it, it's going to get towed in the morning when you're not allowed to be parked there. And we're like, so I say to him, did you use our van to transport the evidence? Is that legal? Are you supposed to? He got mad. I decided to shut up because then he got mad about it. I didn't want him to start stacking any charges up. We ended up getting out. We took it to trial. They actually switched our prosecutor in between. So it took 6 months. In the meantime, the one warehouse, the smaller one in Van Nuys, we just cleared it out. We just got out of it, couldn't do it. The other one, we flipped the power back on because they shut the power down with those locks and shit. We bypassed the power, turned it back on. We were growing while we were in trial. We beat the charge about 6 months later, so I would say July-ish. We harvested 2 weeks after the warehouse after the charges were dropped. But we were going to take it to trial, and they didn't let us know they were going to drop it until like 2 days before trial.
Okay.
And the reality of it was we didn't have more plants than we had patients to cover it up for, and we had an accepted, even pre-ICO, because Jason's was a pre-ICO because he was in West Hollywood, what was legal. And so I guess they finally looked at it and said, we're not going to be able to do anything. So we got to go to the police station. We got our scales and our money counters and everything back out of evidence. They took money from us that took us actually 2 years to get back. They kept sending us just a little bit of it because they had it all logged down, like where they collected it. There was 40 trim pounds that didn't make it to any paperwork. They weighed all the trim that was in the refrigerators and freezers, but somehow I think it was even Wi-Fi. We had some Wi-Fi
I went to the Policeman's Christmas Fund that year.
Yeah, so raided in California at the end of 2015. So we got beat up too. I mean, they cut down $1 million worth of weed right before, 2 years before. Well, actually, it got voted on in 16. So it was literally voted in within less than a year of our raid. They started adult use, where they got the process going, which it implemented at the beginning of 18.
Yep. So fucking when I got raided, it's like fuck. This is 6 months before legalization.
Right.
It crushed me. It fucking crushed me. Oh my god. It's like I was almost like depressed in Florida. Like if I couldn't figure out what I could do, because I've been I've claimed fucking 2007. I got 2006ish. I got a divorce. Let her have all the money. I kept all the properties. So I'm gonna be a renowned builder in South Palm Beach. I'm saying I was building some nice ass homes. And then the crash came, and I had to claim. I got foreclosed on. I had to claim bankruptcy for $2.8 million back then. I was young. I had 2 kids that I kept. That I raised myself, and I had to fucking go back to the streets.
2008 was bad in Florida.
Oh fuck, dude! It was
bad.
brutal, dude. It was fucking brutal. So I got a loan from a friend of mine. It's $180,000 at 100% interest.
Double. Give me
on
double
a
back.
handshake.
Yep.
And I came out to California. I got that property, and I built this thing, and then that was some issues. Like I said, I went through some issues,
Yep.
and then I finally started cranking. And in 2017, is when I got raided, and I had a BHO lab.
Yep.
And that was brutal. So I was looking at fucking 3 to 7 county time, not even prison, and it was like I said,
Even in California, they didn't fuck around about extractions back then, especially BHO.
The BHO.
They didn't really care about water hash, but you got caught with BHO.
No, the BHO was fucking brutal. And then I had most of my guys were from Florida, except one, but he had a Florida background, so they said all these Florida dudes, and we all shut the fuck up. And then we fought that case for 4.5 fucking years. Nobody talked. Even the trimmer that I had in Florida didn't talk. They kept us in jail for 30 fucking days. And then they let us out on the $2.5 million bond. They finally let us out 30 days later, and then they kept us in California for almost 4 months. It was like 3.5 months, which was cool. I didn't mind that, because then everybody that was there with me, they helped me refurbish the building back into a building instead of a grow. I sold everything except the 16 light kit, comeback kit that I put in a warehouse. And then I sold that property, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, legalization came in California. What the fuck am I going to do? I'm fighting. I know I'm fighting a case.
Right.
I'm stuck for 4 fucking years. Nobody. I looked like leprosy. Like that dude just got busted with a lab, and he's not in jail.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that if we all shut the fuck up when we fought the case for 4.5 fucking years. After 3 years, most everybody got let go. They kept the guy whose power and everything was in his name. They kept him for an extra almost year. We finally had to play it out to. COVID did play a hand on this, because they were only handling cases that were like murders or super aggravated thing. It was still fucking kind of weed thing. My attorney's like, finally, the owner of Trollmaster goes, I got to go to court. He goes, you want me to come with you? He goes, I'm good luck. I'm like, well, let's go. Because I was taking this thing. They weren't giving me no offers, no nothing. They did offer the trimmer get out of jail free card, and he fucking said no. So anyway, finally.
That's lucky for you.
Dude, I've been
that kind of loyalty ain't
I've
common.
been fucking blessed my whole life. Like even in Florida, there's a couple times that people haven't gotten raided, and they've spared me, and they've actually fucking ratted on people that they known a lot longer, and they never ratted on me. I don't, fucking knock on wood, whatever. I treat people well. I've been blessed that they spared me. But anyway, so we fought this case, and then finally they made me an offer. I had to plea out, because extraction is a felony, hard felony. The case read as follows. Manufacturing anything other than PCP. I'm like, holy fuck, dude, that sounds rough.
It does sound rough. Anything
rough.
other than
I was even arguing, can they change that shit? Like, I'm 49 years old at that time, whatever. I'm on my way out, but I got these young guys that are fucking, they're gonna see that on there, manufacturing. As soon as you read that, these motherfuckers.
Well, at least you weren't manufacturing PCB.
Yeah, no, manufacturing anything on the PCB, yeah, but what they look at you, that motherfucker's manufacturing meth.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how
what
they
they
look
would
at it.
think, for sure.
They make it look super bad. It's like, fuck, dude, this is going to ruin these kids' fucking life or whatever. So anyway, I ended up pleading out to maintaining a place to commit a felony, which is a wobbler felony.
I would take that, yeah.
All day long. I was building this the facility that you walked in today.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of fucking building that thing.
Okay.
Just rolling the dice, thinking that I'm going to fight this thing somehow. I'm going to fucking win. So at that point in time, I was ready to take it to the box, but then they dropped this on me. Like, hey, you know what? You can plead guilty
Plead
to
out to
maintaining
this.
a place to commit a felony. It's a wobbler felony. After 2 years of probation or a year of good behavior, you petition to, get it kicked out. And then, it's dropped to a misdemeanor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, fuck, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, where did I sign up for that one?
Where do I sign up? So I signed that one, and then I was able to fucking, keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Keep it rolling. So after you guys got raided,
Yeah.
you started, you got off of that case. You started, kept growing.
Yep.
And then legalization came about.
Yep.
2017ish, 18ish.
18. It was implemented in 18.
18
Correct.
was implemented. And then, I remember at that time, I think Chalice was still going on, and all these events were going on, and I remember
17 was the last chalice. 18 got him
Okay.
because of legalization.
Legalization, right, you
He had to
couldn't-
have it. He had to have it at a state fairgrounds, and I believe that was the holdup of being able to get it done.
Okay, I remember that now.
Yep.
Okay, so I remember that a lot of these people that I've been seeing come up at Chalice,
Mm-hmm.
and I said Chalice for a reason, or like the Black Leaves, they were big, they were selling, everybody was selling packs. Cali Plug, I remember Cali Plug out there. Shout out to Cali Plug. I remember the motherfucker sold out. And
Chalice was popping at Jungle
and then he
Boys
was
had a
going,
spot
he was
out
going around buying everybody's packs, trying to flip packs. Black Leaf, Alien Labs.
Yeah.
Who was there was another guy that was pretty fucking big, extraction guy. I forget his name. But those, I thought, man, these guys made it.
Marcus Nature's Lab was big back then.
Yeah.
He was winning
There's a
awards.
lot of people that that seemed like they were on their way, and then something happened where they're not around anymore. And
Oh, my God.
And they didn't reinvent themselves.
LA got destroyed in 2000. Between 2015 and the end of 2017 was like the absolute heyday for the medical industry in LA. You could go to a sesh every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
You could meet a family that grew, and you could choose from hundreds of different strains, hundreds of different edibles. The amount of products, the diversity of products in 17 was beyond anything they probably even have now.
It was
so
crazy.
it was amazing. It was crazy and amazing. And so I so appreciated that. We got caught up in LA. It's very restrictive LA. Not only you had to be a pre-ICO or a Measure M. And so when they went, because LA was very restrictive, even more restrictive so than the state was. And so LA only recognized about 185 dispensaries that had been on the books since 2012-ish, I believe. Measure M might have extended it to the other 30 or 40, or 135, something like that. But the number was 185. We weren't one of them. And so we went from being legal for 7 years in California, paying tax to the Board of Equalization in Sacramento here. We went from being legal one day in 17, December 31st, to illegal January 1st of 2018. Now, the one advantage we had, which is we're getting back to where you said where we had to pivot. That's why I'm getting to this
Yes,
pivot part.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And so because we knew that legalization happened in 16, that's when we really started to pour on with our Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we did use Instagram prior to that. So Mickey got us on Instagram. I would find dispensaries in LA and show up with packs to connect them on the DM. And you could almost say we built Beard Bros on Instagram from 12 to 15-ish, right? And the events, going to the High Times events.
We all did.
Yeah, we all did.
We all did. Instagram was great back then. You could do fucking hashtag hydroponic, hashtag weed, hashtag fucking cannabis.
We did hashtag our BB underscore in the strain name, and any pictures in the cultivation had all those strain names, so people could literally look at the entire life cycle of our plant to finished product to seeing it in retails then, because you had the retails use the same hashtags.
That was my pitch deck. I had a pitch deck and didn't even know it. I would literally, like Jeff said, we would show them that strain. I would be showing them a turkey bag, and I could show them a picture on my Instagram that was that flower in the room 6 weeks ago when it was in week 6. Then it got trimmed and cured and dried and cured, and then sent out. And so
to this day, is some people's resume Instagram. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've all been fucking deleted.
Right.
Fucking Instagram's a bitch.
Yeah, so
But,
leading
that
into
was-
64, our Instagram presence for news, media, began probably around 16-ish. And it was during the time that they were leading up to the vote on Prop 64. We were researching it. We realized that all the other growers, because all the growers followed each other back then. And so they were all our friends. And we were like, okay, if we're going to try to get a license, because the goal really is always to be legal, right? I mean,
course.
I get the trap is alluring and it's cool, but I really feel like if any trapper tells you I just want to trap and I don't actually want to be legal, nobody wants to look over their shoulder all the time.
No, and then you know what? The
So-
older you get, is either your balls shrink or the smarter you get. I don't
get
know which
smarter?
one, or maybe a little bit of both.
You-
Who knows?
Well, you
know?
realize there's more to life.
Correct. Yeah, and then you might have kids and stuff like that. You have more to lose.
Yeah.
Because there's some shit that I look at back now. It's like, fuck, dude, I did some stupid.
Oh yeah, we all
shit.
did stupid shit.
Stupid shit that I would never do it again.
Yeah.
So, you perfect statement. You know what I'm saying? You always want to be able. I saw this coming a long time ago. If you had it, you guys were looking to go out west. You guys knew already. I mean, you knew already that there's
We would be legal there.
It's a shelf life, to be in a trapper. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like somebody said it the other day, which I've used this too. It's like a stripper. There's strippers that do it for a lifelong career. Let's say.
No, you're not. You're not going to be able to.
Right. But there's some girls that says, you know what? I don't have any.
I'm going to go through college.
I'm gonna have to fucking dance to put myself through college so I can be a nurse or a fucking or a lawyer or something. You know what I mean? That's which is sucks.
I mean,
what
if
you
you-
have to do,
I mean,
but a strategic move that you have to
Right.
do because your parents aren't rich. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna fucking support yourself and then be able to go to college because nobody can pay for your college?
Right.
So it was a decision that you had to make. So I understand where you're saying that you had to see the writing on the wall. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be able to figure out how am I going to get to legal.
Yep.
And then a lot of people made it. A lot of people didn't make it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or actually, I say a lot of people didn't make it. Some people made it. One of the persons that have made a pivot that were great cultivators too. That are like you guys and stuff like that. It was Lance from Blackleaf. He was never able to make, let's say, the full change into a cultivation, but he reinvented himself. He's got now first smoke of the day. You guys got now Beard.
Lance is from Florida too.
Yes, from the West Coast.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot
So
of Florida.
we
people.
actually started out aggregating news. We didn't actually write our own content. I mean, I wasn't a writer. I am now, but I wasn't. I didn't fancy myself a writer then at all. We cultivated weed. And so in 16, we were looking to how we get legal in 18 if this passes. And so we started aggregating news about licensing and regulation and how the vote was going and all that stuff. And when it passed, then we started digging into how can we were educating ourselves on how to be legal. And we'll just share this with all the other growers that are following us on Instagram. So we were aggregating news. In 2018, when it actually happened and we were not able to secure a cultivation license, we did get a license, and I'll get to that part, but we started a newsletter and a website. And I primarily started a newsletter because we kept getting deleted on Instagram at this point. We've been getting deleted ridiculously since about 15 on. And so when we would get deleted, how are people going to find us? If I do a newsletter and they give me their email, this is how simple it was. Give me your email. I'm doing a newsletter once a week. When I get deleted on social media next, I'll tell you where I'm at now. That was it. I just didn't want to lose people that were following what we were doing. So and also then we did carry over till about 19, growing. Until they actually made you have metric on your an actual metric. It was paperwork.
Right.
And paperwork was kind of like COVID paperwork. You could just write it, and there was nobody checking it. It didn't even mean anything. Oh yeah, I got a COVID. I got a COVID vaccine on the paper I wrote out. Right. So it was the same thing. But then when they got you on a computer, and now you actually were on metric, it was different. So we had to stop then. But we realized if we didn't have product on the shelf, we needed to stay in the patients and the clients and the consumers' eyes somehow, and that was on social media, so we pivoted into the media part of it. We also, as we were doing that, we were able to secure a social equity license in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I think we're one of the few success stories for social equity. It's been an absolute disaster for a lot of people, specifically on retail side. And in LA specifically because of the terms they put around it, having to actually have the piece of property before you could even apply. So in LA, they had people paying $10,000, $20,000 a month for a spot, and then they might not have got a license, or they got one, and then they couldn't start building out.
Putting the cart before the horse. It's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
only license, you got to spend a shit ton of money, and there's no guarantee at the end.
Not at all.
Crazy.
It was the craziest thing they ever did to make people have a piece of property first.
So you guys actually got the license because you got arrested.
We had gotten arrested, the raid in 15.
You know what? I fucking missed mine by
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have to pay any fucking permit. Because if I would have been like it was 17 and a half, July 27th of 17. If it would have been in 2016,
Yeah.
I fucking wouldn't be paying no permit.
So in LA, because we had a nonviolent cannabis only charge, we then qualified. You either had to be in a zip code or you had to be a certain income level. And because they rated us, we were below that income level. In LA, the income level was like $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So if you weren't reporting that much on your taxes, you qualified, or you were in the right zip code.
Correct.
So we were able to apply for that, and actually we didn't even qualify for it until almost it came up. It was September. It was September-ish of 18.
17.
And was it? I think we applied in 18. After they went in, they did social equity. So in September of 18, they gave the licenses out to the 185 that were legal. The social equity program took the 9 months to get implemented. Until then, you had to have been convicted. Well, we beat our charge. So for the first part of 18, we're like, this is even more bullshit. Not only do they rate us and fuck us up, but now because we beat the charge, we're not eligible for them ruining us just 2 years ago. But then what they realized was they didn't get enough applicants because guess what? If you were convicted only, you were probably either still in jail or you never recovered from it at all and you had no interest in doing it. We, however, beat it. So they changed it to charged or convicted.
Sick.
And then we became like a poster child example of social equity.
Okay.
We qualified for everything.
Cool.
We were blessed. And like I said, we are probably one of the very few examples of a social equity situation that worked out well. So then we were able to let Mammoth Distribution know that we were social equity applicants. And so heavy hitters, now Papa and Barkley, Almora, they have a house of brands, Mammoth Distribution, most well known for heavy hitters. They, as the big company that didn't need a way in, became basically our sponsor for social equity, which is how it worked in LA. You had to have a convicted or a person unconvicted like us with a cannabis charge, and then a company that was big and wanted to operate within Los Angeles County, which was key because otherwise you had to go to the low desert or the high desert. Everybody was up in Adelanto. But if your business was in LA, that cost alone is crazy of moving everything back and forth from Adelanto back and forth to LA. So Mammoth Distribution worked with us and we got a social equity license. So they were able to open up a facility in North Hollywood, legal within Los Angeles County. The requirement was for 3 years, they had to give us 10% of their space equivalent, either 10% in their space or 10% for our own space. So they got us a manufacturing and a distribution that was right next to their space in North Hollywood. And we had a little 2,000 square foot area where we had distribution and manufacturing. But because they didn't cultivate it all, there wasn't any interest in them in building a grow. And even if you had a license, it still costs a couple $1 million to even build out. You would spend probably $2 million just to build out 5,000 square feet, couple hundred lights maybe, and you would spend at least that, I feel, to build something out. And so we didn't have that. So during the time when we were going and selling products medically, we saw that people never had a current supply of RSO. And that's how we got into making RSO products. So we would take our trim and our smalls from about 13 on, and we would make RSO. And so I would show up with packs, and the edibles, I also had RSO. And so everybody that buy packs from us was glad that we had a source of consistent and the same RSO, because you'd go in and be a different brand, a different potency, a different consistency every time. So we got known for RSO. We sold so much of it that we then just began donating it to a lot of people across the country, children and people with autism and people with epilepsy.
They say that RSO is like one of the actual
True medicine.
medicines.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. One actual true medicines. You guys are about the only person that I know that makes the RSO.
Yeah.
And you guys are actually in dispensaries now with that
We are.
product.
Yeah, absolutely.
And since 18.
Yeah, since 18, since we got in with Mammoth, so if we couldn't grow our own flower, which we would still want to do, but we couldn't grow our own flower, what were we going to do? Well, we were known for having quality RSO, and we were also known for giving it to people that were sick and in need. So we're like, well, that makes sense. We have a manufacturing facility and a distro. We can make RSO and do a manufactured product rather than a flower. In retrospect, that was a great idea because a manufactured product, unlike a flower, is different. Flower is different from one room to the next, so certainly from one state to the next with different facility. But guess what? A manufactured product is not. A manufactured product is an exact replica no matter where it goes. So that was a benefit. We still want to grow, but by 18, we had products back in the market. Matter of fact, Ivan at Jungle Boys was the first retail to carry our Prop 64 adult use legal product at Jungle Boys downtown.
He was also one of the first persons or big names that would actually repost your post, your informative post.
Yeah, he was.
And then that helped you guys kind of, level up per se.
Well, that account got taken down. I had 120,000.
A long time ago. Yeah, but once you get that following, I mean, they kind of come back in a way. But I remember that Ivan used to repost your stuff, because you guys, whatever you guys did, you guys were the first to know, and then you would post it, and then he would repost it on his page. If it was like big news or super important, he would post it, and then that helped you guys get, a following. And then he still, to this day, I'm sure, sells the RSO in his store?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it still does.
Sick.
And so we had to pivot. We weren't going to keep our flowers on the shelves, so we pivoted to manufactured products. How do we stay in the public's eye while we get back to growing? Which we did a little bit of licensed growing in between. In 20 and 21, we did a little bit Didn't work out for us.
I remember there was a couple of builds.
Yep, a couple of builds that we were part of and put genetics into, and then that just didn't work out. I'll leave it at that.
Which happens a lot. I mean,
It does.
It happens a lot. And like, dude, it's hard enough for you to do it by yourself. Now, if you have a partner, and the more people that are involved, it's fucking tough. And then the prices of weed. I'm sure if the prices of weed were getting better, a lot of more people would have made it, because when there's no money, that's when the problems come. You know, the bickering. You know, you should have done it this way, you should have done it that way, or maybe try my way, try your way. You know, if the market would have, a lot more people would be together or made it if the prices of fucking weed would have gone
You
up.
actually know how lucky we were that we didn't build a grow immediately, both of us, in 18, because it was still high teens, maybe even 2000s a pound back then. And so we were upset. 18, we were like, we're not going to have a grow. This is, we want to grow, but we're going to do manufactured products. We're going to stay in the eye, but we want to grow. Honestly, the way the price got inflated by COVID, and everybody thought you're going to be rich, and now where it's at now, I don't really mind missing that first area, because it went way up and then it just now dropped way down, and now I think it's maybe coming back up, stabilized at least. But that was a wild time. So if we had built in 18, we might have gone out of business by 21 or 22.
Right. Dude, I'm in the picks and shovel business. You know, I dip at both ends. When I started building the facility back in, it was 2020. I started building. 2020,
COVID.
No, 2021.
Yeah,
2021,
right after COVID.
2021. I was scared to build my place at that time. You know what I'm saying? And I probably wouldn't have done it if I didn't have a partner like Trollmaster, because I was selling Trollmaster equipment. You know, we had just started to think really deep, and the thing on the DM is like, walk me through a facility that's got your products, and I couldn't show them. I couldn't go into everybody's. I couldn't show them a trap. You know, nobody wants to share a trap. And then there wasn't that many facilities that of people that I knew that I felt comfortable say, hey, can I walk these clients through your thing? And it's a pain in the ass.
Right.
And the shit that I do at my place, there's no fucking way that anybody would ever let me get away with. Even my own fucking guys are like, fuck, man. It's like, you got to walk people through here. You got to do this. You got to do testing, stuff like that. So that's when we realized, it was a risky thing, but I don't think I would have ever done it at that time, because it was like rolling the dice, you know what I'm saying? And then through the COVID, I seen the prices go up, and then it took me 2.5 years to build my place, to a point that people were making fun of me online, because I documented everything, so they seen how long it actually took. And they said, that dude's never going to put fucking plants in there. He's just doing it for show. He's going to sell equipment, whatever. And I'm like, dude, nobody's going to spend fucking, $10 million in a facility that, it's just for a showroom. I have a fucking showroom right behind you guys.
Yeah.
Cost me a fraction of that, but, you got to really, our products, you got to put them in a commercial environment and test them.
You can't get a better endorsement than the actual product company has a fucking grow.
Correct.
You
Exactly.
can't get a better endorsement, can you?
And that's it. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of grew into this. It started as an HID.
It's symbiotic.
It's HID, exactly. It works out great, because he's a great partner. I believe I'm a good partner to him too. I take care of the stuff in the States. He does his thing in fucking Hong Kong. We have meetings. We talk about the products. We describe. And I'm in the construction industry, so I can look at CAD plans and equipment, and then they send me models or whatever. I look in CAD or actual molds, and then I stick my 2 cents on there. I'm a small part owner of Trollmaster now, and Think Really Deep. And he bought half the store, interest in half of the store, and then we're partners on the grow, and we're partners on the lab that I've been trying to build for the last fucking 5 years. But I was scared to build a facility then.
You need somebody like that. You need somebody with money to be in the California market. There's no way around it.
Correct, but the money obviously is not. We're self-sustained now. He put the money to build a grow, but we're self-sustained. You think there was a cap, how much we're going to help you, and you got to sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim, and we're
used to that.
We're on the fucking verge of there. It hasn't been a cakewalk over there either, and it hasn't been a cakewalk because I decided fucking great idea. Let's fucking build a nutrient line. Oh my God, dude, it was fucking brutal. And I wasn't proud of the weed that we were fucking producing at first. And then a lot of the issues were because developing a nutrient line was fucking rough. The lockouts, the this, the that. And then I had not only that, I had taken a hiatus from growing for fucking 5 years because I was fighting a case, 4.5 years fighting a case. And I was selling LEDs, but I didn't have, my friends had LEDs because I sold it to them, but I wasn't in the grow room every fucking day. And that was the time that I got raided and I was on bond or parole, whatever, bond, I guess, pint the case. It was the time where the LED fucking broke out, and it's the time that, irrigation changed into what it is today, the precise irrigation, and I missed that whole curve. So I kind of had to almost
learn it.
Had to
You had to learn it late.
learn it
Yeah.
and learn it in a fucking professional environment and put in fucking product. It was a tough, there was, like I said,
Well, listen, there was no straight conversion from HID to LED. It was completely different. The environmental factors you set up. What I realized was that we just didn't know it, but we basically parked heat lamps above our plants that kept the leaf, and then had to overcool the room to keep the leaf temperature right.
Yes.
It's really all about leaf temperature.
100%.
When you get down to it, there's a good leaf temperature, and if you're out of that, I don't care what you do. You're going to think it's this, you're going to think it's that, but in reality, the plant's just not working right.
And we sold LEDs with the pretext. I said, you save this much in electric, this and that and the other. But and yes, to a point. The other point is that you need a lot more dehumidification.
You need to change the whole environment.
You need a lot more
Controls.
dehumidification because the HID is not, the heat is not making your ACs overwork.
Yep.
To dehumidify the space. So you had to have more dehumidifiers, and then guess what? Dehumidifiers, what do they do? They blow heat, so you need more AC.
More AC.
So that more
this, more that.
Dehumidification, more AC. It brought the power back up anyway.
Yep.
So it was an interesting learning curve again to get back into the grow.
Well, and the plant grows completely different too under
Yes.
LEDs.
Super fucking bushy, less plants per square foot.
Yep.
And
Got to change so many things. Everybody thought great LEDs. They create less heat, and I'll just put them in. You didn't just put them in.
No, you
now I
have to
will say what LEDs
really-
probably did for the trap was make it a lot easier.
100%.
Because you weren't melting the ice, you weren't melting the snow off the roof in the winter.
No, I agree. yeah.
You weren't running your AC and having $1,000 homeowner bill, right?
Yes.
Because the LEDs could bring down. Well, I guess maybe they don't bring down the power. I'm not really sure. You're trying to say they don't bring down the power overall?
You can put more lights, but you do need more dehumidification.
Right.
And the more dehumidification that you put in there,
Right.
then
That creates more heat, and then you need more AC.
Which nowadays, you realize that, you actually need an overpowered AC system now to be able to handle it. So now that's where reheat came in.
Yep.
Now we're very involved in the reheat, especially the refrigeration hot gas reheat, not the electrical
I mean,
reheat.
reheat makes perfect sense for a grow room.
100%.
I mean, I think that's the same way they do swimming pools and stuff. They don't have dehumidifiers. They have the right air
Yes and
conditioner.
no. Cannabis kicks swimming pools' ass because they're
Because they transpire. The plants are actually creating moisture all day long if they're healthy.
Doesn't stop. Yes. So we're actually looking to partner. We're partner up with a company out of China that does dehumidification for HVAC systems for enclosed pools. But then we ripped all the Siemens electronics out, and then we're putting Trollmaster electronics, and we're doing a combo units where it has and this is
You're literally going to have it to where you get the whole fucking thing from you, the entire thing. Maybe you might even do the building. You're a contractor. Fuck it, build the building too.
Hopefully, we do CAD design, we do 3D
That's what
rendering.
oh shit, designed to
the whole
grow.
deal. But this AC units will do refrigeration, hot gas reheat, and package units. It will also inject CO2, removes emergency CO2 when it's a package unit. It will also do shut off for smoke detectors in there and have UVC lights inside the AC.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a whole package that we're going to come out with.
Right.
And then I can't wait till I get my
You get to do it all. It's smart.
blessed, like I said. So I was scared to fucking start some kind of cultivation space back then, but since I kind of said, you know what, it's going to be like a double thing. This is a showroom.
Yeah, with you it makes perfect sense.
The showroom,
You need
not
to
just
crank that
selling
thing
weed.
up at any time, in my opinion,
Oh my God.
because you have the equipment. How do people know this equipment really works? Right over here.
And you guys went by there. What do you think?
That was great. I mean, just from online. I mean, I talk about this with a lot of people. Outdoors, let's do all the organics. Let's do all the teas, no till, whatever you want to do outdoors. I get it. Cool. Indoors, it needs to, in my opinion, it needs to be clean. It needs to be lab-like. And that's what I've always admired about what I've seen and now actually saw in person. But online, your stuff is clean, and it's that clean in person too.
been
And that's
3 years
honestly
up
how
there.
you have to do it. You can't be dirty inside, because even though you control it, you can't control certain things if you allow them to happen. You will be fucked indoor.
Right, and everything. Like I said, I've said this before. If you never had PM, if you never had any kind of bug, you either or anything, any issues, or a flood even, you haven't even grown long enough. or big enough.
Everybody's had a problem. You can't have a plant without a problem.
Correct. So there's problems, but there's problems with infestations. There's no excuse for infestation. That means you're lazy.
Yeah,
You're lazy.
100%.
Or anything like that. You know, shit happens, and you just got to take care of it the right way.
If I see a brown leaf anywhere in a room, that leaf had to turn yellow first, then fall off, then lay on the ground brown.
Correct.
That's if you saw if I ever see a brown leaf in a tray, I'm like, those people don't keep their shit clean.
No, exactly.
Because a leaf never even hit the tray in our place. I pulled that thing as soon as it started to get off green.
Yeah,
didn't even get yellow. It got off green, and I took it out.
Because you know it's still sucking the life out of the plant, and you're useless already. You're already dying.
Yeah.
Why do I want you on the plant? Get rid of it. You know, cut it off. It's kind of like, you know, if you had gangrene here, what are you gonna do? You're gonna cut it off here so it doesn't keep going through. So now that you guys are pretty much, what would you say? Your social media presence. What do you guys classify yourself as? I know you said you want to grow. But right now, you're pretty much a media outlet. Probably one of the better known social media, medical media outlets for the industry.
We don't really know anybody that's done what we've done as a product brand and then become a trusted media source. I really can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Again, pivot, but also, again, in retrospect, just amazing advantages to it. So if we kept growing really good weed in LA, we would be known in Los Angeles and Southern California for growing really good weed. And that would be cool. But the media stretches across the world.
Yes.
Everybody, Germany. They knew us when we went to Germany last year, which blew my mind.
Which I see you.
Beard Bros. Beard Bros. I'm like, we're in Germany, but I have to remember it's the internet.
Worldwide.
That's where the media part came from. I was never in a writing class. I didn't intend to write. But the reality of it was people wanted to hear what we had to say because we were operators within it and not people that were just writing about it. And so we had a perspective that was different. I mean, when you live an experience, you're going to portray it and write about it and give it to other people in a different way than somebody who's assuming what happens. And no shade on any writers, but if you're a writer, you didn't build grows like we did. You didn't grow, you didn't run, you didn't skirt the law, you didn't do all those things. So you have a different perspective. Not that it's wrong, it's just different than ours.
So what's the so are you guys right now? I know you have manufactured products in the stores.
Yep.
No flower in the stores right now.
No flowers. I wanted to bring that up because you had Green Dragon on here.
Yes.
And we've made our own manufactured products we make, and now we have they're made still at Mammoth's facility in North Hollywood. We put two different companies into flowers. We tried to white label. We're like, okay, we have a flower brand. Who do we trust to put product that we would grow that would be our equivalent, put in a jar, and we would sell it? Because we're not going to, why would we put something that wasn't as good as what we could grow ourselves in a jar? And so Green Dragon was one of them. We put out their OG for probably 6 months, maybe 9 months. And we were buying OG from those guys and putting in a jar. And then we got some Cadre.
Yep, Cadre Verde from here.
Cadre Verde, we had some of their products that we got with a licensing agreement we had with a company. So we did some white labeling, but that was it. So we only ever put two companies that weren't our products that we grew in a jar, and it was those two.
You guys were curating the weed. You guys were QCing the weed. You knew who would grow it.
Yeah.
Who would grow it good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we've continued to grow from just the RSO as the product into a full men's wellness product line with RSO as the source material. So it's graduated from just a THC RSO that is what most people would understand RSO to be as, like the cancer or the autism or epilepsy that they be taking in high dose, as an offering to lower dose tinctures, and now coming out with tablets as well. So building that into a more mature product line here in California, and then we also have product available in Massachusetts as well. Same product line, not as many offerings as of yet.
I was just going to ask.
That's why we refer to ourselves as the multi-state brand, as Bill hit on earlier.
Yeah, because I was going to hit on that because I believe that you guys said that multi-state brands.
Yeah.
MSB.
MSB instead of MSO. The reality of it is California is hard to operate in.
It is.
And unless you're set up to where you can control all the factors, there's not really, I mean, people do it at scale, but there's not really a white label opportunity, so to speak. You're either doing it yourself and you're doing it well, or you're probably not doing it in California. The compression has been real. I mean, the licenses they had originally, so I want to say the Board of Equalization reported there was about 60 or 70,000 people that had cannabis businesses during up to 18. They only gave out, I believe, 9,000 licenses when legalization came total in the state, and I think that number is down to something like around 3,000 or something like that.
There's a lot of people.
Dumb.
So it's a double-edged sword to open up to everybody, because then it gets flooded and everybody thinks that they're going to make it, and there's a lot of failures per se. Because
A lot.
for whatever it is, that made them fail, partnerships or ran out of money or whatever it is. And then there's also the double-edged sword, like Florida did, where only let 5 out, and then you're like, fuck, well they fucked us because they didn't let everybody in. And Oklahoma now is going through that right now too, where it was $2,500. Anybody
Unlimited canopy, $2,500.
And you see what happened over there. Everybody went out of the city limits, went into county and the county things, and you didn't have no permits, no nothing. You could build whatever and then grow weed, and then see, like they say, the Chinaman took over
Oklahoma was crazy.
It's fucking nuts, almost like California back in the days, Wild Wild West, and then that's going through a shrinkage right now. They're hitting heavy in Oklahoma to try to bring that into control. Obviously the state now is known. People made it there, so they're trying to consolidate.
All of these problems come from really just one thing right now: the fact you can't go over a state line. If Northern California could have sold their pot to Iowa, none of the decimation that happened in Northern California would have happened. All those farms, I feel, would still be there. But because they were confined to only being able to sell, and let's face it, Northern California was supplying the world. And now you're going to say you're going to get legal and we're only going to put it in this box with 40 million people when you've been shipping it to the whole world for 40 years?
And then they give anybody that could afford
They ruined them. Legalization did what prohibition couldn't do. It's crazy when you think about it.
I agree with that. So what you guys think with this new Schedule 3? Because that's kind of like, it's like a weird thing because nobody's making, Schedule 3 is like steroids. Is it
Ketamine?
Ketamine. Nobody's making that shit at home. You can't have a license to do it at home. So how?
Yeah. Well, this has been a controversial thing for me online, right?
How are they going to put cannabis into that? Because then if you can't do ketamine at home or steroids or I don't know if Percocet is a Schedule 3 too or any of that kind of stuff, Xanax. So then
if any drug that's scheduled requires a federal drug manufacturing or distribution license.
So that's what's
and there's also state licenses for that. So there's two qualifications.
So what's that going to do to the home grower?
I mean, so
the
here's
home grower, the guy who grows it with a tent and shit like that.
Well, I mean, it could take away home grow, right? It could because let's face it, if they want you to buy it from Pfizer at CVS, are they going to let you make it at home?
No.
So homebrew's got there. Here's the thing. I've after many thoughts and arguments online about it, my first stance was this. Schedule 3, they're not going to give me a federal drug manufacturing license. I'm not going to be able to grow weed like that. Even if they don't legislate you out, there's a very good chance that when they open it up to Pfizer will money me out. They will use their money to lobby to change the laws after the fact. So eventually, you're not going to be able to, in my opinion, you're not going to be able to go into a dispensary and buy flour and go down to the CVS and buy what would be the equivalent of Marinol, and they're not going to sell a flour in a pharmacy, which is sad because they do that in Europe. So in Germany and the UK, they actually mail you the product because it's federally legal. Canada as well. So we've had product in Canada that we worked with a company to put out, and they were mailing it to veterans, and Blue Cross Blue Shield pays for product to be sent to veterans because the government pays Blue Cross and Blue Shield for the veterans. So United States is just so far behind, and it's that 50-state bullshit. But with Schedule 3 there's two scenarios, and now I've started to see maybe there's a chance. So a lot of people don't realize the only reason that there hasn't been a lot of enforcement on a federal level from about 2014 is Rohrabacher-Farr. And Rohrabacher Blumenthal first, but Rohrabacher-Farr now, or vice versa. And what that did was it was a congressional mandate that the DOJ and the DEA could not spend money to go after a state-approved medical, keyword being medical, industry. So in other words, they defaulted, saying you can't go after them. And they did up until then. I mean, the camp stuff was then, and then they were still flying helicopters into the early teens in Northern California. But again, it slowed down by 14 or 15. They were not allowed to spend money, so they just didn't keep doing it. That has protected us. It's been turned on and off a few times by Trump, really, in the last year. But if that stays in place, that could potentially allow medical programs where you can go to a dispensary and buy it, and also go to a CVS as a Schedule 3 and buy it however they're going to sell it. That could do that, but adult use doesn't have any place in a medical spot. And a lot of people aren't thinking about that because adult use means it's like beer, but if it's Schedule 3, it's not fucking beer.
It's not beer. There's so many unknowns. It's going to go like it's going to go GACP.
So if they don't carve out a niche for cannabis, which is what I've told everybody, why would you trust your government to do what's right?
No,
the writing on the wall is Schedule 3 requires this.
Right.
You would be a fool to think that they're going to do anything in our favor beyond what they're required to do. Does that make sense? So they're not just going to say, okay, now it's Schedule 3, but all of you states can just keep doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, the unknown is what's crazy and scary because like we ain't making the money that we're making years back. It's like it's tough in this market now. So then new regulations. Is it going to be GACP or GMP or all that stuff? So you're going to have to convert your grow into these qualifications that some people don't have the money to upgrade their grow. So that's going to make your go out of business. And then all this new permitting stuff like that is going to decimate the people. Home grow. We don't. The only positive thing that I can see is the 280E.
Medical home grow. 280E is good for if you're in business.
280E can help, but it's just. So
overall, it's bad. So what we want is we want deschedule. That's the reality of it. The other thing people aren't talking about is Schedule 3, while it will lessen the sentences of what people were getting, and maybe you could then take it back and say what I would be sentenced to now is not the same as what I was sentenced to 20 years ago, and you could potentially get a reduction. But the reality of it is the inmates that have been in there for 20 years don't have the money to hire a lawyer to go get the fucking reduction. And so there's nothing built into Schedule 3. Common sense would tell you if it now carries a lower charge, they should retroactively go look at it. But our government's not going to do that. They don't really give a shit. So there's no guarantee of actually helping prisoners as well that are in there now for cannabis charges.
Which, by the way, let's bring that up. You guys are very involved in the prisoners. I think it's everybody thinks it's admirable that you guys really do because there's a lot of people that are incarcerated for a nonviolent offense. And then in there for fucking retarded amount of fucking years, and now there's people that are making millions of dollars off this industry. Well, they should all be kind of let out. So I do agree with that. I mean, there's a certain gentleman that you guys have been advocating for.
Edwin.
Yep. Edwin.
Yeah, our advocacy for that goes back. I'm the CEO, Jeff's the COO at Freedom Grow. We just became that within the last year and a half. But we've been active with that since 2012 or 13. So when we moved to LA, you didn't know people. What did we do? We got involved with Normal. Orange County Normal was one of the first groups we went and hung out with. Through Orange County Normal, we found a group of people that were helping nonviolent cannabis prisoners who got charges in the 90s, most of them. Mm-hmm. And because of the 3 strikes you're out, or they didn't actually get charged with weed, they got charged with money laundering because you got to do something with the money, they got excessive sentences. Edwin is one of those. In 1997, he was charged. In 1998, he got 40 years. They didn't actually catch him with anything. They convicted him for 40 years on his co-conspirators' word and testimony.
Which is fucking
and
crazy.
he didn't rat.
But that's what the RICO fucking thing is, pretty much because they could never get the bosses back in the day because nobody rat them. You're going to end up with some end shoes. And then that's, kind of like a RICO thing. And
so we got in with this group, and it was mostly women. We used to donate our hot chocolate, to our medicated hot chocolate, Cushy Cocoa, and Stephanie Landa would sell it at the High Times Cups. We were talking about we were moving all the packs in the parking lot.
Yeah.
She was inside selling our medicated hot chocolate. We would donate it to her. She would take all the money. She would go get money orders, and she would send it to these guys. Because the only thing worse than being in prison is being in prison with no money. That's the only thing worse.
100%.
So
when I got raided, I had a pocket full of money because I was using that to fucking
it's
hold
nice that
food.
they put that pocket on your book. Sometimes they just hold it.
Correct.
You don't
yes.
get it on your.
I was blessed. I didn't fucking what? I got fucking I think $2,600.
That lasts you for a minute. You had a bunch of honey buns.
I got actually money back.
Little
Debbie's. I was in there for fucking 30 days. But these motherfuckers looking like this. This motherfucker's like.
So we were involved with it at a very early time in it. There's pictures of Jeff and I. Back then, we would hold up signs at the events, and so there's a picture of Jeff and I. I'm holding up Randy Lanier. Jeff's holding up
Craig.
Craig Sizal. These guys were in jail in 2013. In 2022, they were both out. We got to take a picture with them. So we were advocating for their release. Randy had life. Randy wasn't getting out.
Wow.
Yeah. So Randy was the race car driver that funded his own IndyCar team by smuggling in barges from South America full of weed. So Randy is the only person I know that's ever self-funded a fucking actual race car team, like on the circuit. He got Rookie of the Year one year, and he got a life sentence the next year. 87 and 88.
Yeah.
Randy didn't get out till 16, so he did 27 years. Edwin is on year 28 right now. And these guys didn't actually get caught with pot. It was people talking and saying that they did these things.
Yeah. The RICO Act. Like Delicioso, he's one of the guys. He's actually from, I didn't know this.
He's from Florida, I believe. Hawaii and Florida, I believe.
From Florida. I fucking, Broward County. I freaking hung out with his family members. You
Yeah.
know, we all used to party
Okay.
back in the day. You know, we
Yeah.
all sold weed to each other.
We know his son. We've met him too.
I met his son now, but it was his nephews, these other guys that that were around that
Yeah.
we were all involved in it.
There was a lot of guys got 40, 50, 60 years. It's crazy.
Funny because his last name is Delisi, and then Delicioso.
Yeah.
But there was a sub shop right there off Dixie Highway, north of Sampo Road, which is North Broward,
Right.
North Broward County. That was Delisi Subs, and we all used to buy subs there. When it was little back then.
Was it him?
It was his family.
His family, that's great. I love that,
It was
yeah.
his family, the Delisis. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But they had a Delisi sub shop right there. And then now we've talked about it. We laugh, and I talked with the son about it. He goes, "No fucking way." It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
So that's kind of.
We all crossed paths, but nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
You didn't put it on your storyline on social media that you ate there.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, if you don't put it on the gram, it never happened. Which is funny that you said about Instagram, because like when we all know fucking the OG story, somewhat, but and nobody knew where it came from, and then TK and stuff like that. But and I'm gonna get called bullshit on, but it's no bullshit. You know, the Morty story.
Yeah.
I was listening to Adam Dunn, which is a podcast about weed, and I was taking my son to college. I was driving him there, so I was talking to my son, and I was listening to the Adam Dunn show. And I was, I listened to a lot of it, but there was parts that I was missing through the story. And Josh DOG was being interviewed, and he was telling about the story. And then it's an interesting story, and I've always heard that 1996, you know what I'm saying? 1996. And then I knew about TK because, in Florida, we're surfers. We surfed up and down the coast. Marty was a surfer. We all intertwined. That's how we met people. That's how, if you're a drug dealer, you met people from all the way from Sebastian Inlet, let's say, down to South Beach, because we're all surfing up and down the coast smoking weed. They'll smoke weed and you sell packs or whatever. Or you travel across the world, Indonesia, Mexico, and you met Californians and you make new connections, Costa Rica, Panama, all over. That's how you make connections, And so I listened to Adam Dunn show, and then one day I said, I got on my bike. I used to, ride the road bikes. I used to be in shape, believe it or not. And then I said, I'm going to listen to this podcast again. So I put this earphones on, and I listened to this podcast, and then that's where I heard the story from Josh D saying that, he was growing in L.A. and stuff like that, and he kept hearing this fucking dude, Matt Bubba Berger, I think. Matt Berger, kept fucking wouldn't shut the fuck up about this strain in Florida was so fucking good, blah, 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 blah. So he finally says, fuck it, just bring the shit.
Bring it, yeah.
Bring it. So they went, so then Matt and those guys.
Brought it.
Matt and those guys, they brought some clones, and he said it was the little shittiest, wimpiest fucking clone that made it, and then that's the OG. So they set a date in 1991. And I said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Because by that time, I've grown for years. I've grown the OG, and I smoked the OG, and I've grown the TK, and then smelled the TK, and they're very similar. Even same with the Chem 2. So it was a fucking long shot, dude. A fucking long shot. When he said 91, it hit me. I go, "Fuck, dude," because the town that I came from, we had some very influential indoor growers. Indoor was fucking like the crypto, the skunk back in the day, all that kind of shit was, the crypto wasn't grown there, it was out of Seattle, but, the drug dealing was just insane. The surfers that we looked up to, we were young, looked up to, they had grows, and they had indoor grows, and they grew this fucking weed. So anyway, it was a long shot. I said, Marty, I know this dude. His name's Josh, he's on Instagram. And I'm going to put you guys two together, see if somehow you guys can discuss, places, names, people, and see if you put it together. And then Marty at that time was in Costa Rica because he had gotten some issues. He grew the TK, and he had gotten some issues and then it was like, fuck Florida. I'm going to Costa Rica. He's a diehard surfer, and then So anyway, I got them to talk because I wanted to see if they could piece it together, and fucking long and fucking behold, they fucking put it together, and the one that put it together was that kid Alex. So then I went on the Adam Dunn show myself, I had a podcast and I was talking about it. So what happened, there's this dude, Marty was growing weed for these guys, the ones that we talked about, the drug dealers that, that we looked up to back then, and they paid for him to go to Amsterdam, and he was the mule. He grabbed the seeds, and they were growing in these rooms, in houses and garages, and then they popped some seeds, and something hermed and pollinated this room. It wasn't like overseeded, but there were some seeds, and they were fucking pissed at him. They were like, "Fuck, whatever," Now seeded is going to fucking not fetch a good price. You got to sell this weed. So it was, I believe it was like 30 pounds. Don't quote me on it. It could be fucking 28 or whatever. It was around 30 pounds. 20 pounds went out of state. 10 pounds stayed in the state, in Florida. We were surfers. We could sell weed. So then this kid, Captain Kirk, had a quarter pound of this weed. It was like of this weed. And he met this kid, Alex. And he was like, fuck, you got to sell me the QP. And Captain Kirk said, no. Finally, he talked him into selling him 3 ounces. And I believe that's 3 ounces. And then Captain Kirk kept an ounce. That 3 ounces is the OG story. That ounce is the TK. Okay, so that kid Alex knew those guys in Gainesville, the Matt Burger, all that kind of stuff. So he took the weed over Gainesville. Those guys must have popped the seed, and that was the OG. Now, Captain Kirk had the ounce. He had, some seeds. He's the one that popped that seed, okay, and that became TK. He later gave the cut to Marty, said, I think 6 months later, don't quote me on that timeline too, and says, hey, this is the cut that I got from that fucking seeded pack. So then Marty started fucking growing the TK. Somehow the surfers in Orlando, like Melbourne area, okay, they knew, those guys Chrome White from Cornbread Ricky, and then they got that TK, early on, and then if you smell and smoke, the TK and OG are very, very similar, and so is the ChemD. Now, we can't prove that where the ChemD came from that batch too, but they're very similar, variegated, same profile.
Right.
Same profile. It'd be great to find out, but we'll never know. The story is that somebody went to a dead show, and then got an ounce of weed or something, and that's
some seeds in that.
So we assumed that that's what it was, but it's only an assumption. I was able to put together by the luck of God. I mean, like I said, I'd never would have thought that this happened, but through names and dates and everything, it got actually put together. And Josh and Marty are actually good friends now, and it was put together that actually got developed.
You know what's ironic about this story, and I don't think you remember it from the way you're telling the story. I literally reached out to you, and what you just said right now is exactly what you told me either in late 17 or early 18, because we wrote the origin of OG Kush in 2 parts. We did Josh first, and we did Marty second. So we did it Star Wars style.
Right.
We did it LA first, and then went back to where it came, how it got to LA. And so we wrote almost exactly what you said 8 years ago now.
Right, but you guys didn't know. I think we were talking earlier today about the QP.
No, I didn't know that part.
That the ounce is the TK. The ounce was the TK, and then the 3 ounces is the OG. So
everybody's always kind of guessed.
Correct.
Everybody's always kind of guessed that TK and OG were close enough that they had to be related, because there really is nothing else, unless you're going to try to lump the Chem Dog in there. There really is nothing else in the world that's ever been either TK or an OG.
And I believe it was
the same thing with Chem Dog.
And I believe it was the. I don't want to.
You blew my mind with the Chem Dog.
I don't want. Yeah. Well,
because I never really thought about it, but it makes sense.
Chem 91. Chem 91. That was That was right that time that batch got seeded, and these guys were pissed at Marty because he was like, I can't believe.
What's wild to me is that it just stayed in Florida for about 5 years before Josh got it in '96. That's wild as hell.
And then, for years, like me and Marty known each other for a long time. Marty was a very quiet kid. You know what I'm saying? Very quiet, very private kid. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't, I knew Marty, he knew me. I had been in his house. Funny thing, one time Marty took me to his house in Boca Raton, and then I'm from fucking that area. And then I was following him. I forget the reason why I was going to his house. The motherfucker, I know he could have drove straight to his house. He drove in different fucking ways. And this motherfucker, why is he taking me the long way around? To see if I don't remember how to get there. But whatever, like I said, I grew weed back then. My best friend, Sea Green Lounge, I didn't tell him I fucking grew weed. And he grew weed. Now we laugh about it. I'm going to have him on the podcast. He never told me he fucking grew weed. You know what I'm saying? You would tell nobody.
You didn't tell anybody.
You didn't tell nobody that you were fucking growing weed.
Yeah.
It was that.
Especially in Florida on the East Coast.
It was that crazy,
Yeah.
But, so it makes kind of sense why, Marty was very, very quiet. He goes, and then he kind of moved from Boca Raton area north to Jupiter. And then from there, he ended up going to Melbourne area, you know what I'm saying? Where, and like I said, we were friends, and then we separated for a while, we didn't talk much. I had guys going from Lake Worth, South Palm Beach, Boca Raton, going up north, or surfers, well surfed, buying this TK shit, which I didn't know what it was back then, and they were bringing it down, And then they were smoking it, and it was like, dude, this fucking weed is so good. And it was called the TK, Triangle.
Kush.
And there were so many different things why they call it Triangle, because Orlando,
Miami,
Melbourne,
Jacksonville.
Miami, something fucking like that.
I thought I'm gonna throw Jacksonville in there.
Somewhere like that, you know. I don't know why they call it Triangle, but it was it only came out
Yeah.
Triangle Kush. And the weird thing is that it was Triangle Kush, and then the OG was just OG
It was just Kush.
or just Kush. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it was weird that those two names, that's by coincidence.
Yeah.
And I've heard the story why they called it Kush, because somebody said, I've heard the story through Josh D why they called it Kush, but they didn't know. But something about the, you know.
There was Kush berries came in there
somewhere right there.
because it grew golf balls instead of
Yes.
big long baseball bats,
And
like
then-
a lot of your
Right, exactly.
longer running strains.
And then because that's the part of the Adam Dunn show that that I heard
Yeah.
that where they were naming
And
it.
Adam's been involved with breeding for a long, long time, so he gets all this for sure.
And then, so it was pretty fucking cool story listening to Josh D's thing, and then seeing his pictures with the mirror and the Dutch trays. Because that's
Well, supposedly wasn't it? It was a NorCal strain. It was in the room, and they had some Afghan seeds. I'm assuming that Marty might have brought back. So Afghan was known as Kush a lot of times. So I think that's where the Kush part of it came from.
and that's what I was gonna say earlier, that I think they were growing something like the white, because and I don't think I've ever confirmed this with Marty or anything like that. The white, and there's something else pollinated it, but that, I could be wrong on that. So don't worry, because I know that the Cornbread Ricky, the
Yeah.
Swamp Boys had a cut that was, or a strain that was called the white.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm confusing that, but I forget exactly. But
Yeah,
anyway,
they do have a strain called the White.
Okay, I got you.
Actually, I have seeds of it.
Huh? Oh,
I have
really?
seeds.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and then those are another Florida guys
I
that
think we met them in Oklahoma. We met them in Oklahoma in like
I think so, yeah.
2019 or 20.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were Swamp Boys out. They were out selling seeds early on. I don't know if they do it anymore.
I gotcha.
But the events aren't like they used to be. We were actually at a Canacon, weren't we? I
think it was.
That's a Canacon in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So for those of you that didn't know that little OG backstory, it was
it.
our guys down in Florida where it got created, because it wasn't ocean grown, which
Well, here's the proof about it. It was in Florida for 5 years, and everybody was so secretive, and everybody enjoyed it. If you knew, you knew. In my opinion, what really made OG Kush become OG Kush was the fact that it made it to Hollywood,
correct.
and it made it to people like Snoop and
Real.
And Be Real,
Cypress Hill.
and because they went on tour, and they brought their weed with them, and everybody wanted to be like Snoop and Be Real, and that's what really
impact, yeah,
made
celebrities.
OG Kush desirable, because Hollywood had it.
Yes, celebrities. Yes. So it's a pretty cool story. Pretty cool story. So what's next for the Beard Bros? What's going on? What do you guys got working on? I know you got some fires in the coal,
We got a lot of stuff
or
going
coals
on.
in the fire, should I
actually.
say? Fires in the coal, coals in the fire.
Continuing to expand the product line, both in terms of offerings and in terms of locations that it's available. So we have some things in the works there. That by the end of 2026, we should be in a couple of other locations. And then the other thing we really just continue to always do is immerse ourselves in the industry and the community, in the advocacy, in all of those places. The most common thing we hear from everybody is that we are everywhere. They see us at all these types of places, in all these different types of rooms. I think that will continue in 26 and beyond. And I think that's kind of one of our special sauces, or one of our hidden talents that we realize is to place yourself in those right environments. Good things usually occur.
And you live, Jeff, you live in Sacramento, right? And then, and Bill, you live in
I'm
LA.
still in the San Fernando Valley.
In LA, okay. And at what point did you guys separate? I know you've been here now for a couple of years now.
Close to 5 years now.
5 years. 5 years now,
Crazy
okay.
It's been that long.
Interesting.
On the same time, I think you got here and started building up your spot, and obviously you were back and forth.
Right. Well, 2010 California, but then in
No, the
Sacramento,
Sacramento
area,
Sacramento about 2020ish.
Yeah, we got here like early 21.
Yeah.
So
It was right about the same time, exactly. Yeah, it was winter of 2020, 21. Correct. Yeah, interesting. So and then I know that Bill, you've expressed this ever since I seen you step into the grow. I was like, I love the smell of the grow. So you obviously still want to, and we do. Once you grow, I think you always want to grow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're looking to possibly get an
If
opportunity.
you have a passion for it, you're going to want to do it. And we didn't voluntarily stop growing.
No,
we had to. No, I would love to get growing again. The part that still blows my mind is that we were able to come to LA, and California and LA specifically, and we were known for growing pot. If you would have told me that I could make a living in LA without growing pot, because people would pay me for what I thought and what I said, I would have said, you're crazy. But that's part of that whole cultivator thing. That's why I called it MacGyver earlier. If you're not pivoting in life, it's really life advice. You have to be able to pivot in life, period. Nobody, unless you're lucky, is able to go through life in the same little box.
Agreed.
You're going to have adversity, and you're going to have to overcome it.
100%.
And that's where the pivot comes in. And again, like I was saying earlier, the fact that we're now known worldwide because of the internet and our media, it just lends to being able to do more. Like Jeff said, you put yourself in the right position, you will find opportunity. And we were always doing that. When it was becoming legal, we were looking for the opportunity to become legal. Now that it is legal and it's become tough in certain areas and easier in other areas, we're now looking for those areas to move into. So honestly, Europe is where you're going to see us focusing on next. There's a lot going on in Europe. I'm excited about how they're doing it because they are selling flowers in a pharmacy. You can have a medical card from a doctor, and you can get, it's Canadian flower a lot, or Thai is getting in there. Thailand flower is getting in there, but it's they have to import it because they're not allowing a whole lot of commercial grow in Germany yet. So they imported something like 70 tons of, or no, they upped it to 90 or 120 in Germany. So Germany's kept Canada alive for the last couple of years, and we're all getting our lunch eaten here because we're not federal.
Well,
So
the difference is they're being very progressive on it. All the different countries are competing almost in a positive way to come up with better policies and better ways to do things. Where here, it seems like we still have states that are infighting. We still have the feds infighting, all the Schedule 3 stuff. They're trying to restrict. They're trying to control. Where they're still trying to open access to it. So I think there's a lot more potential there than there is here.
Right, and then I feel the same way. Like I started traveling over to Europe, for the cannabis thing, and then I see obviously technology is there now because technology has progressed with cannabis, but they're ahead in some things and they're back in some things. You know what I mean? Like, just like you said, the legalities of it. I feel like the thing that hurts Europe is no branding. It's medical. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be self-plain. Nobody can really take a leap because you don't have your name on the brand on the package. Kind of seem like Florida. Florida True Leaf has got to sell through True Leaf. They say Miami Mango and the stuff that they sell for us, but it's very medical.
Florida's very sterile.
Very plain, very sterile. Yeah, I think that kind of hurts.
Europe's loosening up on that, though.
Are they?
There are people that are going to be having branded products in there.
I believe that's when it's going to hit, and then we're trying to push ourselves also for Europe.
It's the advantage that we have by coming to California when we did. Let's face it, if we were in any other state, nobody would know who Miami Mango or Beard Bros were.
I agree.
If we weren't in California, it's that simple. People can hate it all they want, but California is known across the world, and you can't build a brand like you could in California. If you got here after 2010, if you got here after 2018, you couldn't build a brand like we did, and you did from being here in 2010. But also, it's just the scale of it. You can't help but learn and get better by being here because there's so much of it and it's so ingrained in the culture.
Like for example, this district, District 6, which we're here today, you guys are very familiar with this district, the cultivation density in this fucking little district in Sacramento is like no other fucking place. I mean, just this district alone, there's 2.5 million square feet of canopy. I think is the most dense cultivation space in the fucking planet. It's just, and there's a lot of those big brands, like the Connecteds, the Alien Labs, the fucking Lumpies, the Blueprints, Preferred. All those guys, they're my neighbors.
Yeah.
I mean, we're fucking literally a mile away.
They're not making any more Preferred. They're not making any more Connected. They're not making any more Mangoes. They're not making any more Beard Bros. And they've priced everybody out from being able to do what we did. You couldn't do what we did as an individual.
Correct.
A brand, a company can come in with money and try to do marketing to get their name known. But you can't build your way up the way we could. That time is over.
Yes, that time is over. So I was thinking about the other day, what happened when all, I guess they call us legacy operators because we're there. What happens when we're gone? I mean, there's no such
It'll be all big. Hopefully, we're hoping. So we look at it in this way. There's two choices for us. We either can stay independent and we're gonna just do what we can do financially, or you're gonna have to work with somebody at some point. At some point, you have to take capital.
100%.
If you want to expand, and so you have a choice with that. But honestly, I think 20 years from now, the choice is we either continue on your own or you become Jack Daniels or Levi Strauss or Eddie Bauer. You build as an individual, you become the brand itself.
Right. I agree. It's definitely, but I still believe that cannabis is infancy worldwide. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, we're 10% there.
100%
is final adulthood of cannabis industry. We're 10%.
Yes,
but in 18, we were all worried. We did the same thing you did. Oh, we didn't get a grow, and then we made bad licensing deals because we were desperate. No, don't need to do that. After like 2021, we're like, okay, we don't have to do that. right? We don't have to rush it. We don't have to have a grow.
Right.
We can watch how things work. And we've just stayed small and nimble and been able to pivot and never put ourselves out to where one thing would ruin us.
Right.
That's been what we've done, and we haven't taken any money from anybody. So we're completely still self-funded.
So you guys are looking for expansion, towards Europe, kind of like we are. We see that that's somewhat a future frontier. Just like you were saying it today earlier to me, it's like a lot more people in a
Double the
small
population and half the area.
half the area.
So it's 4 times the ability to get product to people. It's just a number. I mean, think about it. It's a numbers game.
So hopefully Europe, lets you if you can brand more, more structure. So and I'm sure some California, U.S.
The medical
brands are gonna
programs
go
are
over
letting
there.
you. Even the UK, now you're not. There are restrictions. It's really more like Canada. Like Canada, you can't actually do advertising online. Like they won't allow it from Canadian servers. But what people in Canada do is work with people here, and brands here, and their servers are here. And so if you have product in Canada, but you're living here, you can talk about it. But the people in Canada can't talk about
They
it.
talk about it. I got you.
So that's where the workarounds come. The UK is very similar, super medical. But at some point, if a brand does a deal with a medical company and you talk online or you're already known, you don't really have to market it on the package. You're telling them where to go get it. And even though your name might be just MM or BB, they're getting it because they know you. So that's where it goes back to me saying, if you get yourself well known enough on social media, it's the only way you can compete with money is by having the audience to be able to do what you need.
Interesting. And then Instagram did that for us. You know what I'm saying? It was
It
like
did.
It's
No doubt.
and
As much as we hate it now,
yes,
it did it for us.
He did it for us. I agree. And then I did it like I'm showing the grows and stuff like that. Same thing like Colombia. Colombia is kind of weird because they can grow tons of fucking weed, export it, but you can't. I think the laws just starting to change in Colombia, so we're going to be able to sell flower to the citizens of Colombia.
Kid from Colombia, or is he somewhere else?
No,
He's from Colombia. So Colombia is already shipping international.
Yeah,
There's
correct.
people we know there
Correct.
that are growing.
That's the
and
only
they're
way.
sending it.
That's
Now, the
the only
trick
way.
with Germany is they're very specific on their GMP compliance. That's where Portugal got itself in trouble. What people were doing was when they were bringing stuff in from temperate climates that were prone to have mold and higher mycotoxins than Germany would allow, it would go to Portugal. And so now it was no longer a product of Colombia or Thailand. It was a Portugal product. And Portugal is federal, so they're able to ship out to people as well. So they would do what they were calling greenwashing. And they were either irradiating it so that it did pass microbials, or they were just saying it passed and sending it anyway. But that got caught up, and Portugal really got put on like lock because they did, I guess maybe it goes back to the old world mob mentality. They really got into washing because you're talking about hundreds of tons going into Germany. That's a lot of money. They really got into it. So it's a wild scene when it's federal and you're talking about there's a whole global thing. So online there's a lot of trolls online, and they have a very narrow perspective because they're probably in their mom's basement, and they don't even know that these things are going on. But Canada's been killing it with the imports, and everything is moving globally, and we're just sitting here now. If they ever just take those shackles off, the United States is going to kill it.
It's going to kill it, especially California, because like I tell people, nobody says I want Oklahoma weed.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's good weed grown in every
Dude,
state.
even Michigan's
some bad weed in
growing
every
fire.
State. Yeah,
Maine's growing fire,
But
right?
But I hate to say it, but this is still the Mecca. Nobody says I want Maine weed. Nobody says I want Michigan weed. Nobody
I agree
says
with
I
that.
want fucking Oregon weed. And like I said, nobody says I want Florida weed. You know what I'm saying? But every state, I've been around all of them. Every state grows good weed and bad weed. You know what I'm
There's
saying?
people everywhere growing
But
the pot.
California's still the Mecca.
Well, it's again Hollywood.
Yes, California's
It
still
really
the
is. What you watch and what's been ingrained in the generations, it's not going away.
No.
California will always be the Mecca.
in the Mecca.
Always.
And then I've been to Amsterdam
People get mad
when I
because I
was
say
young.
it's L.A. and they say it's San Francisco, and then other people say it's NorCal.
Yeah,
But
Sacramento.
the reality of it is the amount of weed that's grown in L.A. If people actually knew,
Yeah, the fucking warehouse is
it's
fucking
so
crazy.
much,
yes.
dude. It really is so much.
Interesting. So what's in the future for Beard Bros?
Like Jeff said, continue to expand the media, putting ourselves in a position. I mean, ultimately, what I tell people, they say, Bill, what's your dream scenario? And so I didn't realize before we started doing media, and I was doing content myself, and I could get the narrative in my head out for people to read. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that. So my dream right now would be for me to, like a newsroom style thing, the HBO show, where I could show up and I could tell people the subjects I wanted them to look into during the day. And I go to my grow from 8 to 10, I'm going to be at the media room. 10 to 2, I'm going to be at the grow because I got a lot of things I want to breed. I'm a total grow geek. might not know it from the media, but I could spend the entire day in a grow figuring out what we're going to cross, and then pheno hunts and equipment, making equipment better. I love that stuff. And then I would go back at the end of the day for the stories I wanted them to talk about, because we put ourselves in the middle of everything. We were cultivators that then started following regulation, that then had enough knowledge from daily looking at regulation that people wanted to hear what we had to say. They cared about our opinion. And so that's where the events came in. Speaking at events, we actually, crazy enough, we were the official media partner for MJ Biz. MJ Biz has been around forever. Everybody knows it. Little old Beard Bros Media was the official first media partner of Media Day for a cannabis event. And nobody really does them. So you go to Comic-Con the day before, they have all the media, meet all the people that are exhibiting at Comic-Con and the celebrities, and they get the stories out before the event even starts. And so we did that for the first time ever, just December, with MJ Biz. And again, for two growers that became media, to be the official first media partner of the largest North American cannabis event there is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Jeff, you're still using that light I sold you a long time ago? How many years?
Yeah, still using that to keep some genetics alive and do a little bit of playing around in the house.
Okay, cool. I remember it's been quite a fucking few years.
That thing grow. It's a couple
Dude,
generations
I've
old
sent
at this
people to
point.
you too. I got a couple buddies of mine in Florida said, Bill, I'm getting a tent. What light do I need? I said, you need to get a Troll Master.
Sick.
So they got it.
So genetics, it's keeping the genetics alive. Okay.
We joke about that.
Okay.
We got our genetics. We've been holding for so long now that they're new. Nobody's tasted them in 8 years. Well, 4 years since we had them last on the market.
Gotcha.
So.
Crazy.
Keeping them alive to eventually re-enter the market with them.
Crazy. So were you like, in case that somebody just crawled under a rock and doesn't know who you guys are or how to get a hold of you guys, would you like to tell the followers, how to reach you guys if anybody was interested in trying your RSO? Because that's one thing that like I said, you guys are about the only person that's consistent for a long time RSO, which I believe is really true medicine. Anybody that happens to be listening to this podcast and they had somebody that needed this medicine, how can they get a hold of your products and how can they get a hold of you guys?
Obviously, Bill's talked a lot about the social media throughout it. We're Beard Bros Pharms with a PH, not an F, on Instagram. Same thing on our website is Beard Bros Pharms with a PH.com. That has a wide range of things on there. Our product finder to be able to find our products in California and Massachusetts. It has a lot of the events we're going to be at and the green list that we have that shows you all the events worldwide, what's going on monthly. So if you're looking to attend those events, it has our daily news on there. It has our Beard Bros Media Network, which we didn't even talk about. We have 7 different podcasts that happen every month on that with different hosts on a wide range of topics. So basically anything that people are looking to get involved in cannabis from a beginner level up to an operator, we have something for them to consume and help them understand the plant better.
Well, cool, because that was my next question. I was going to ask you guys, glad that you kind of give foresight. Is there anything else that you guys want to cover that we haven't discussed on the podcast that you think is important to bring, attention to?
We do have a variety of things for people to look at. We've got over 3,000 articles now on our website.
Okay.
And the first ones were some of the OG Kush stories we did in 18, because we started writing, our website started in 2018, April. 2018, we started the website and the newsletter. So we do have a Friday session newsletter. If anybody listening would like to sign up, you can find it on the website. We ask you for your email. Every Friday, we send you a recap of the articles that we covered. We give you a little take on an introduction on daily things in our own words. We have featured events, the green list, like Jeff said. So if you're looking for events, any events in cannabis in North America and in Europe too now, we have the green list. You can go on there. We've got them all listed in there. You can even click on them and go find tickets. So we like to be a resource. Again, we like to put ourselves into a position to where people are getting information from us. People trust people that they get quality information from. So that's always been our goal.
Would you like to mention that, was it last night that we had the event here at the Mangotech store, which you guys,
Another thing we didn't even get around to covering was the Sacramento chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, which is another business-to-business organization that we're involved with. It's really a local networking group, but they have chapters all over California, all over the U.S., all over the world. So again, if you're looking to either get into a market and learn who the people are there and network and meet like-minded people, or if you're somebody that travels around for events or travels around selling ancillary equipment and you're looking to meet contacts or potential business contacts as well, that's another group that we're involved in. So again, just putting ourselves in rooms to meet the right people, meet good operators, meet like-minded people to ourselves, and be able to forge relationships out of that.
It was a pretty cool event. I see, there was people that actually came here as far as three, almost 4 hours away. Santa Cruz, weed.
Santa Cruz, weed.
Yep. Oakland.
Yep.
The Bay. Some local people, and then I seen some. There was a few faces that I know from local that came by to visit, but there was also a lot of different people that I met that I guess have seen me on Instagram. They introduced themselves.
Yeah.
And I thank you for bringing. I think that was cool because.
Absolutely.
Well, we thank you for throwing it here.
Yeah, that was cool.
I look forward to doing more of those in the
This
future
place is
as
pretty
well.
cool. Yeah, this place is pretty cool because like I said, you can smoke here. It's not smoky. Everybody has. It's kind of like it's a weed place. It's like a hydro store, kind of like a flagship hydro store. I'm sure it's a little different than anywhere that they've had it before.
Yeah.
I think you said restaurants before, but they probably gave you a hard time for smoking.
Absolutely. We had to, kind of wink, wink, just step outside in the alley on the side and do it. So that's one of the things that, at least myself as in the Sacramento Chamber, I want to be normalizing that we are all talking professionally, conducting business, consuming freely cannabis. It's no different than going to happy hour at the bar,
Having a couple
having some cocktails while you're discussing a potential business deal, and it needs to be treated more like that.
And something else we didn't even talk about is because we got into media and because people saw us speaking and talking at events and we became known, and then we started traveling to events, we're also going to be getting into cannabis and travel. There's a huge connection between traveling and consciously looking for cannabis when you're traveling. So it's a niche that we don't think anybody's really filled correctly yet. So you're going to see some Beard Bros travel in
Sick.
2026
Okay.
too,
All right.
both content and actual travel.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, I think thank you guys for coming. Thank you for bringing the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce to Sacramento to the Mango Tech store. Maybe the next time we'll get a little pony keg, kegs. I know you
go.
guys don't drink, but
I'll have a beer with you.
oh yeah, there you go. We'll
go.
get some beer and some joints. Time to conclude the podcast and thank our sponsors once again. Thank you for Trollmaster, the future of intelligent farming. If you don't know what Trollmaster is about, maybe you're under a rock too. Think LED, best LED lights in the market. Mango Tech store for the venue and mango juice. If you're not juicing, you're losing. Thank you. Cool.